Manager Doug Armstrong has been eager to refresh the Blues as management shifts in the St. Louis organization, but teams are wary of the high asking prices currently, and also there's some cap management with the other general managers expressing some interest in the list of St. Louis players believed to be available. We're talking about high-end guys like Parayko and Falk and Kyrou and Shen and Robbie Thomas and Jordan Bennington, all pieces in place, some obviously more complicated than others. So there's value in that group of players. Obviously there's value in those guys, but the asking price for each has to come down, and there's some cap management, as I said, in play as well.
That's what it sounded like on Insider Trading yesterday as Darren Dreger says, hey, Blues are open for business. The rest of the league believes their prices are too high. Who could have seen that one coming? Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We begin with the Blues today because it is officially deadline day.
Not that deadline day.
In the NHL. There's a roster freeze later on this afternoon, right as our show comes to its conclusion. The NHL trades prior to the Olympics also reached their conclusion. Alex, that audio, by the way, courtesy of TSN up in Canada. Do you think the Blues will make a move today?
I don't. No, I do not. If a move does happen, my estimation is it would be a minor move. I don't expect any major moves by the Blues today. I think what today is going to be is a day surrounding guys that teams want off of their roster. So what I mean by that is Artemi Panarin is a really good example. I think he gets moved today by 2 o'clock because they've scratched him for a week and a half, I think, because they're trying to trade him and don't want him to get hurt. That's the one that I think gets moved. I think for a lot of teams in the NHL that are sellers or like borderline sellers or buyers, now is the time to wait. Now is the time to see, hey, who misses out on some of these pieces that do get traded today? Like if Panarin gets moved, if I'm the Blues, does Washington get him? Because if they don't, now that might heat things up for me if they're still interested in Kyrou like Jeff Merrick told us. So, no, I think today's phone calls, and I think today is, hey, are you still interested? Yeah, we're not budging off of what we want. Well, we're not giving you that. Cool, let's talk on March 6th. Phone hangs up. That's my estimation of what today is.
That's kind of how I see it as well, because you don't really have leverage as a selling team right now because, though, yes, there technically is a deadline, it's not the final deadline, right? You've got until March 6th to try and make these moves. That's when things really get to heat up to where you probably finally meet in that middle where the teams that are trying to buy are saying, well, this is too expensive, and they're still holding that high price. They probably come down a little bit. You meet in the middle on March 6th. I don't think you see anything done by Doug Armstrong today, though.
I don't think you do either, and I think that's fine. I'm sure there will probably be some consternation among Cardinals fans. Blues fans.
So you got too hyped up with using a fancy word, Bradford. Just stick with the simple words, and we can get through it easy.
There will be some frustration among Blues fans.
See, it was easy. You would have hit it, nailed it.
That
I'd like to believe
they won't make a move today. I don't think it matters at all. I have no real concerns about this. I think that Doug Armstrong will make the moves that are necessary. He said they've been embarrassed. Those are his words, not mine.
He said it twice.
By the way that the team has played this season. This is now basically 4 of the last 5 years that the Blues have been bad. And he knows this is the core that has failed. They've gone through multiple coaches. They've tried to change and churn through the roster around some of this core group of position players. And they have now decided, it seems to me at least, this isn't working. We need to move on from some of these guys. Braden Shen has term. I don't care. It's time to move that player. Justin Falk has another year. I don't care. It's time to move on from him. And I think the same thing will be true for multiple other players on this roster as well. We'll see what happens with Pius Suter. He has none of the no-trade protection that some of these guys have that we've talked about for a number of seasons now. I think they're going to make the necessary moves. I would expect the asking price to be high right now. Why not? What's the downside of doing so? You've still got another month to actually make a trade. You've got 2 weeks while the Olympics are taking place to negotiate down from where you're at and try to get these other GMs to negotiate up from where they're currently at. I see no real reason not to ask for the moon. I don't have any concerns really, Alex, right now that he's going to sit on his hands and decide at the deadline, yeah, no, actually, I needed all of this and more. Otherwise, I'm not moving these players. I think that may be the case for Robert Thomas. Maybe it's the case for Jordan Kyrou. Those are probably, in my opinion, off-season moves. The other stuff, though, that we've been talking about, I think he gets that stuff done.
You're a lot more confident in it than I am, because I won't lie, I've had intrusive thoughts for a while now that he does hold his valuables too close to him and say, no, these are worth more than what you're willing to give, and I'm not going to trade them away, because they're not pending UFAs. They're all with another year of ownership, essentially. So, term. Thank you. So with Falk and Shen, I could see Doug looking at the market saying, this is the best right-handed defenseman available. He's got 11 goals, which I think it's 8 fewer than the most goals by a defenseman in the NHL. You're going to give me what I value for him, or I'm just going to bring him back next year, and we'll talk in the offseason. And I'm not going to be hypocritical, because I've sat here on this show and said for weeks now that I think it's a failure if Chaim held on to Brendan Donovan. If you don't trade Justin Falk for, let's say a team's only willing to give you the equivalent of a first-round pick, whether it's the pick or the prospect, you take that, because he doesn't look as valuable in the offseason as he does right now with 11 goals playing some of his best hockey. With Braden Shen, I could make a strong case to not trade him, but if teams aren't willing to meet the price, I'm still going to be listening on what you're offering me. And, man, I have to look at what they're offering. You need a change for change's sake. And I don't like saying that with a team, and I understand him having the asking price high for guys like Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou. But let's not fool ourselves, guys. Other teams see what the Blues are seeing right now, on ice and off ice. Well, why is this guy a problem? Why isn't he contributing offensively? What do you mean they're not scoring goals? So why am I going to give you the equivalent of 3 first-round picks for a guy that can't score you goals? All of those things can be true. And at some point, my concern is Doug says, I'm not budging off of this price. You are giving me this, or I'm keeping him. And you keep him, and you run the same team back next year, and you say, well, we didn't get it done. Whereas if somebody's willing to offer you, let's say, 2, the equivalent of 2 of the 3 things you want for certain players. I'm putting Robert Thomas aside in this conversation, by the way. That's the dude that you have to get the world if you're going to trade him. But for Kyrou, for Falk, for Shen, man, I might not be getting what I want for these guys. But you need a change, and if you could get something close to what you want, I do think it's something you should consider.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned. Really, the only guy I have some of that concern on is Falk. I think Shen, he was open to moving him last year. I think he's going to be open to moving him again. And I think he knows what the value is on Shen. Falk's one I don't know that I fear he might hold out and try and get who was it, Rasmus Anderson, who got moved by Calgary. I fear he's going to look at that and say, we need to get something close to or equivalent to that. And that's the one that I fear he holds on to and says, okay, if we're not getting that, then we can just bring him back and listen to him on in the offseason or move him next year at the deadline. He's really the only guy that I have that intrusive thought on. I think Shenny knows where it's at. I think Kyrou and Thomas, he's got a good idea of where things stand. And Thomas, he should hold high value for. I think he's only moving those guys if he gets the right offer, and I think that's probably in the offseason. The deadline one that I have the biggest concern about is Justin Falk.
Why do we have that concern, though? What in Army's history suggests he's going to be afraid to move on from these?
Pavel Buchnevich. That's the one that I immediately think of when I have these intrusive thoughts. I mean, it was well documented of the interest in Pavel Buchnevich around the National Hockey League, and the same sentence was used. Doug Armstrong wants a lot for this guy, and the deal wasn't done. And they said, no, we'll go into the rest of the season with them, and we'll try and re-sign him. And they re-signed him. And I think that was a bad decision by the Blues, to where you could have gotten, let's say, the equivalent of 2 first-round picks for that guy. But you didn't want to, because you didn't get what you thought he was worth. And you said, well, now we can't lose him for anything, so let's pay him. And they're not going to pay these guys, but just to get the equivalent of 1 first-round pick for a Falk or a Shen, or to get a young piece that can be a part of your team, even if it's not 2 pieces for Kyrou. Let's say somebody's offering you 1 young defenseman, and that's it. I think you got to take that. I don't know what it's going to look like moving forward.
I think there's a significant difference between the Booch situation and what you have right now with some of these other guys, though. Booch was 28 at the time, and the Blues believed, at least, now they were wrong on this, but they believed at the time, hey, we're going into what could still be a winning window for us. We still think that we could be really good quicker than what people around us seem to believe. And so Booch, the thought was he'll still be in his prime as we do a lot of winning around here. There's no case to be made for that with Braden Shen or with Justin Falk. Justin Falk's 33 with 1 year left of control. You're not extending him. Braden Shen is 34 with 2 years left of control. Not only are you not extending him, he is very similar to the Brendan Donovan situation, where you're seeing probably the best hockey that he's going to have the rest of that deal. It's going to get worse instead of better from here. There's no reason to have him around if you're not going to be good over the next year or two. And it's hard for me to believe they're going to be really good over the next couple of years. So I just don't see the situations as being particularly similar. I think Booch was an extend or trade. That was the Donnie situation. These other guys, it's trade or keep, and I don't see that as being similar.
But the concern that I have with Falk specifically here, because like I have the conversation with Booch as kind of with Kyrou, the concern with Falk is kind of what you said, to where they looked at it and said, well, we believe we can maybe be more competitive next year. And if you don't get the equivalent, let's take Rasmus Anderson, for example. They got an NHL player, low-level prospect, but the equivalent of 2 first-round picks back for him. And the report is that that's what Doug wants for Justin Falk, right? A borderline NHL player in a first-round pick. Let's say a team's saying, well, we're not going to give you both of those. You can either have the NHL borderline player or a first-round pick. And you're going to say, no, I'm going to hold, or my concern is he looks at that and says, no, I'm going to hold out and see if we can get it in the offseason. Or they'll do what they did with Rasmus Anderson next year. I would just take one of those pieces right now and not risk it to make change happen for the team.
Yeah, I think they know this team's not good enough, and I think they know they need to cash in on these assets now.
I hope you're right, man.
That's where we're differing. I think we get to the same place, and then we take a fork in the road moment where it's like, yeah, I'm Italian. I speak with my hands. I apologize. We get to this fork in the road moment where you have to make the choice. And now it comes down to, what is your faith, what is your level of belief in Doug Armstrong to make the hard calls, to actually get to that place and then get to your puke point and you say, this is the move that we have to make here. My belief in Doug Armstrong is that he'll make that move. He's not afraid to move on from assets even when he doesn't want to. I just think his history suggests he's not going to do that.
I have lived in your world, but those intrusive thoughts keep popping up. And it's just like you're trying to speak to the intrusive thought goblin that's in my head right now, and I hope you're right.
And as aggressive as Army has played before, I also think we underestimate how stubborn he can be on holding for his prices as well.
When his team's good, I agree. His team's not good. Because in the past, he has held out for the ultimate price. We saw this with Vladdy. We saw it with Braden Shin at times. But last year, I think he came to a deal, and Shin said, no, I'll stick around.
And I also think he held to he didn't budge off of his price, and he almost got his price.
Yeah. And with like Booch, he decided to keep him around, but that was because he thought they could win again with Pavel Buchnevich as a part of the core. This isn't that. It's a very different situation. This is like judging the Cardinals this offseason based upon what they had done when they still were in the we're going to get in, we're going to get in, we're going to get in mode. Well, no, they're operating differently now. So we have to judge them differently than they were previously. So that's why I personally believe he is viewing this through clear eyes. He used the term embarrassed when describing what his team has been so far this year. I think they're going to make the moves that are necessary. I do not think that will take place, though, prior to today's 2 o'clock freeze.
I think you can call
tonight's game.
I think you could call today's trade freeze just the Artemi trade freeze. Like, this is a Panarin move. That's the only thing that's probably going to happen today.
He's Alex Ferrario. That's Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Brandon Kiley. Blues back in action tonight. Not even this evening. Tonight, an 8:50 puck drop right here on 101 ESPN. That's the only place that you'll be able to get your local coverage of the Blues versus the Stars. It's right here on 101 ESPN tonight at 8:50. Alex will have pregame coverage tonight starting at 7:30.
I'm going to give everyone my all tonight. I'm just going to be a miserable you-know-what tomorrow morning.
Yeah, that's not surprising at all.
Whoa!
Won't change a whole lot for us.
Day that ends in a Y.
Coming
Screw you guys.
Next, SLU was able to avoid that potential bad loss on their resume last night, and at least one national publication seems to believe maybe Josh Schertz will be around beyond just this season. We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario back with you to talk about my friends out at Classic Air Care who are here to take care of your HVAC system, a company that has been making people comfortable since 1926. And it comes down to the 5-star service that you get from a company like this, the knowledge of technicians that work for their company, guys that have been doing this for 30-plus years come out and break things down for you of what's going on with an older unit that you may have, or maybe you've got a newer unit and you want to make that unit last as long as possible. That's where Classic Air Care comes into play. The number one thing they remind people to do, which I forget sometimes, is change that furnace filter. You know, you take it out, you got to put a new one in every single month. I didn't realize it was every month. That's why I got a program that they have where it's a filter program to where every month they send you one to your front door, sits right there for you, and it's my monthly reminder of, hey, I got to change this, and that's how you maintain those older units. So call them today. They've got 100 vans out on the road, which that means they're going to get back to you within 24 hours. They're open 7 days a week. They have after-hour techs on call for you, and their maintenance agreement that they have twice a year take care of the unit for you. Issues pop up, you get priority scheduling when you're a part of that maintenance agreement. So call them today, schedule online, Classic Air Care and classicaircare.com.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. SLU able to avoid the dreaded bad loss on their resume last night. It's a game that T-Bone was locked into. Full disclosure, I didn't see a whole lot of it. Alex, I know you were.
I was watching my two daughters at their dance class, so I was not locked in.
Single life led to me watching Billikens basketball at freaking Davidson.
T-Bone was sitting on his couch, smoking a stogie, drinking a nice glass of whiskey.
I'd take my night 10 times out of 10 over your night.
The life of a 24-year-old.
Did you say that with a question mark?
Yeah, he did. 26.
26-year-old? 26?
Yes.
You're 26?
He was 21 when he first started here, which was 2020.
You've been here forever.
I know.
Holy
Because
smokes,
I told him he wasn't allowed to go to Vegas on his 21st birthday because he was my board up for blues.
He's
That was true.
26?
Yeah.
You're an old fart.
Hey,
my
listen
God.
here, you 30-year-old.
God, you can't even grow a beard and you're 26.
It's rough, man. All right,
What a
so
life.
the 26-year-old was hanging out at home watching this Davidson versus SLU game last night. This felt very much like a potential trap game. That was my immediate thought as I saw that it was on the schedule. All right, so you're at home, huge game against Dayton, packed house. You got the coach going out afterwards, serving all the drinks to all of the fans. And then you've got Davidson and LaSalle over the next week or so. We'll see how this one goes.
Welcome to the A10.
Yeah,
I didn't think LaSalle or Loyola would be good enough to take advantage of a potential lull from SLU. Davidson might have just been on the fringe of being able to do so. T-Bone as the lone member of the show that was able to lock in on this one. How'd they avoid it? Because it looks like the first half did not go well for SLU.
Yeah, the first half, they were significantly outplayed. I know they were only down 5 at halftime. It was a big, I think, 7-0 run, 8-0 run to cut it down to that. They were down double digits with about 3 minutes to go, and it felt, like you said, very much like a trap game because you come off the big game, that atmosphere in Davidson, no offense to Davidson fans, man, that atmosphere sucked. On top of that, you've got guys like Robbie Avila who was dealing with some kind of a bug. He was listed as questionable before the game with an illness, and Josh Schertz just said, hey, they've got the flu bug going around. So on top of it's a trap game, the atmosphere, you got to generate your own energy because it's not a great atmosphere, and everybody's kind of sick, just felt like a loss coming forward for SLU. And for whatever reason, they were able to really just figure it all out in the second half. They became the more physical team. They got back into their offensive rhythm. They were able to kind of solve what Davidson had been throwing at them. Avila ended up finishing with 17 points. Brady Dunlap was huge for them in that game. He ended up going for 22 points, made 6 3-point shots.
How do they have 17 guys that can all go for 20 on any
I don't know.
night?
That's what a good team looks like.
Exactly.
That's what a good team is.
Like, I've said this about Illinois. Now, Illinois is at a different level because they are a team that could win the national title. SLU's not there. But SLU still has the makeup of hey, our best player's dealing with an illness, was struggling in the first half. Okay, here comes this Brady Dunlap to go for 20-plus points in a game. Anytime you've got that as a team where anybody can just pick up the offensive load when your best player's not feeling it or not feeling good in this case, that's the making of a good team. And Josh Schertz has built this team deep. I mean, they ran 9 guys off the bench last night, and all of them played very well. So I was impressed because I told you guys this in the office. Look, I think SLU, as of right now, could get an at-large bid if they were to be surprised in the A-10 tournament. But in the A-10, you're not going to get a bunch of mulligans. And this would have been using one of those mulligans and would have been a bad loss on the resume to where if they didn't win the A-10, it could potentially they look back on and go, man, that could have been the loss that knocked us out of the NCAA tournament at large bid.
I think they're almost certainly going to get in at this point. Now it's about seeding. And that's the kind of loss that could put you, instead of on like the 6-7 range, maybe you're on that.
You did it, man.
God,
Ryder,
you
you
and Ryder at the exact same time.
Joey does it too with me.
You guys have ruined the world.
I didn't do it.
not us.
Yeah,
Hold
the
on,
trend
hold on.
did it. I'm a part of the trend, you know?
You can't even talk anymore without somebody just randomly juggling.
It was
next to you.
6-7, dog.
So anyways, they could have been on the 6 or the 7 line.
I think you can still do it then.
And now, had they lost that game last night, maybe you're looking more of the 9, 10, 11 range. So they avoid it. All that really matters for them in these games against the crap opponents on their schedule. I'm sorry, Davidson. But the crap opponents on their schedule is just survive in advance. Even if it's a 2-point win, it doesn't really matter.
Yep.
And beat LaSalle this weekend at home. I think I saw this is either a sellout already or a borderline sellout. There's like basically no tickets available to this game, which kudos to you, SLU fans.
As there should be, man.
Loyola's terrible this season. That should be an easy win for SLU.
Why, buddy? What happened?
And then down the stretch, you've got some legit tests on your resume. Rhode Island, VCU, Dayton, George Mason down the stretch. You win like 3 out of the 4. I'm feeling pretty good going into the A-10 tournament to be a potential 6-ish seed in this year's tournament.
Yeah, and I like what you said there about it's just a matter of just coming away with a win. Because college basketball, you don't really look as college football of, hey, you need style points.
No.
There's so many games that you're more looking at the resume. And whether it is they would potentially be a team that could miss the tournament, miss an at-large bid if they would have suffered this loss, or like you're saying, they go from the 6-7 to the 8, 9, 10 range in their seeding. This was one of those to where you're right. It's just a matter of, look, you struggled in the first half. You're able to find your rhythm finally in the second half, and you just walk out of there with a win.
All right, bigger picture, what does it all mean for SLU, the program? Because this season, they're amazing. They're unbelievable. They are a legit NCAA tournament team, the kind of team that can go on a run to the Sweet 16. Everybody agrees with that. There's no friction points there. Like we're all on the same page. What I do find to be interesting is what Josh Schertz's future is going to hold. Because he is the one that has made this team into what it is today. The program is something different. The team is very good right now. There was a piece today over in The Athletic, and it was one of those like questions and answers kind of pieces. They asked all of their insiders about a bunch of different categories. And one of the questions was, with the coaching carousel starting up, it seems as though everybody's number one candidate is St. Louis's Josh Schertz. Is it realistic that SLU could retain him and push towards advancement in the next inevitable round of conference realignment? It's a long answer. It's a well-thought-out answer by C.J. Moore, who's based in Kansas City, so he's familiar with Josh Schertz and what he's done here at SLU. But he effectively says there's no reason for him to rush away from SLU. He's shown the willingness and ability to win there. He can continue to do so in a conference that he can maybe not dominate, but be at or near the top of for the next couple of years. He could do at SLU what Shaka Smart did at VCU, where you wait and wait and wait until the exact right job comes open, and then you go take that one. I will be very curious to see what kind of a job that is for Schertz, because like Providence might open up after the season. Is that a good enough job for him? Is that the kind of gig that he would be wanting to go to? It's closer to home. It's up in the Northeast. Is that what he's prioritizing? Would he wait for like a St. John's to open up? Because he can't coach forever. Maybe he can. But Patino is eventually going to have to retire. He has built that job into one that is once again a top 25 gig in America. Is that the kind of job that he's going to be looking for? Does he wait for a job like UConn to open up if or when that job becomes available? Is he sitting on his hands until like a Michigan State opens up, a legit blue blood type of opportunity? I don't know. I don't know what Schertz wants, but the fact that at least one national insider believes he could stay there beyond just this season, man, that would be great for SLU.
Yeah.
Because then it allows them to continue to build on this, and maybe Schertz puts them into a place where they do get that invite into the Big East. And then if and when he does decide to leave, if that is inevitable, then they could position themselves to get the next Josh Schertz again. And they could say, hey, here's proof of concept. You come here, not only can you win, but then you can use it as a program to elevate you to a blue blood opportunity. And that's the kind of thing that if you're SLU, I think that's the best case scenario for you.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. And I mean, that would be huge for SLU. You know, I'm just taking the other side of the conversation, so don't get upset with me, SLU fans. But I have to wonder on the personal side for Schertz. Because if you stay, boy, you are rolling the dice. Because what happens if next season doesn't go like this season? What happens if it's not as magical? I heard him on a couple of different interviews because the guy is everywhere right now for how successful he is having a season with these kids. But he said, you know, it's rare coaches go 6 for 6 in the transfer portal, and we just went 6 for 6 in the transfer portal. Now, maybe that's because he knows how to evaluate talent. Maybe he's got endless amounts of money to be able to spend in the NIL conversation or the transfer portal conversation. But if I'm Schertz and I'm having a magical season like this and I am the belle of the ball for all of these teams, if I don't find the team I want, but I want to take that next step and next season doesn't go as well, I don't strike in the transfer portal or the magic is gone because those players aren't around, boy, does that hurt my chances in terms of moving on to those places. Like, I always put myself in the coach's position, and I love to stay in a place where I am loved. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That dude is a legend in St. Louis already. But, man, if you're wanting to take that next step, it is a risk in college basketball.
It is. I mean, you could end up, like, look back, just go back into the rankings from 3, 4, 5 years ago and look at some of the coaches that decided to stay versus guys that decided to leave. And how many of those coaches that decided to stay at their respective programs are still, in Alex's words, the belle of the ball? Yeah. Many of them get passed over eventually. They waited and waited and waited, and they're no longer the hot candidate anymore. Now, some of them, they remain that candidate. This was the case for Brad Stevens when he was at Butler. It was the case for Shaka Smart when he was at VCU. They just waited and waited, and they ultimately got the great job. So which one is this for Schertz? I think he's an excellent coach. I think he might be special. I think he might be the kind of guy that it doesn't matter how long he waits, he's going to be highly sought after.
Yeah.
But there's risk there. It would be a huge bet on yourself to say, I can keep doing this. Even at a place like SLU, I don't care. I'm in the A-10. I'll dominate the A-10, and I'll be just fine. And I'll wait for the absolute perfect job for me to go take.
Yeah, and in the A-10, I think SLU's got some of the best, if not the best, spending resources that they need to do what BK just said, which is stay atop of the A-10, right? Long as he continues to do that, if he sticks around, then he can continue to kind of wait out and look for the perfect job, wherever that might end up being. I think there's a decent chance he may end up staying because I don't see a job that's going to open up that blows him away unless he just wants to take it, right? Don't risk betting on yourself. Go the route of just take whatever best job comes available. Like you mentioned, Providence. I think there's a chance Oregon opens up. I don't know that there's the one job yet that I've seen open up or there's been rumors of that I say, okay, that might be the one that he looks at taking.
What if Syracuse opens up?
I don't know if that job's as valuable as it was a couple of years ago.
It's big name recognition, though.
It's big name, but I don't view it as closer what it used to be. Yeah.
And that's
I do
very
wonder-
valuable.
That's one thing that I do wonder with him is how much does he value that? Because there's been a lot of rumors about, hey, does Oregon open up? Is that the kind of job that he would maybe be interested in? I don't know. Does he want to go to the West Coast? Is that something that he would be interested in? It's a great program. You've got all the money in the world. The resources are just about unmatched. But is that regionally where you would like to be? Is that somewhere that you would like to spend for the next decade with your family? I don't know. That's the kind of thing that he's ultimately going to have to decide. And when you look at some of the jobs that could potentially become available, I do wonder how much the regional aspect of this will play into some of the decision making, because Providence could come open, maybe Syracuse, a place like Pitt maybe would become available. All of this is closer to regionally where he's from. Does he care about that? Are those the program pedigrees that he's looking for, or is he looking for something more? I don't know. It's a big decision this offseason for Josh Schertz. In the meantime, he's got one hell of a team, and they continue to put together everything necessary to keep rising up in the bracketology reports. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into questions and answers, but next, Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, here on 101 ESPN.
You know what? With winter being right in the middle, I want to tell you one of the reasons why I count on and rely on Classic Air Care to take care of the furnace in my house. And then in the summertime, the air conditioner. It's because, number one, they're reliable. Number two, customer satisfaction is their utmost priority. Number three, they get the job done. They get the job done right. Their techs are educated in it. They can work on any machine. They've got guys, some with over 40 years of experience working on any level. And they're going to be honest with you. If you need a new unit, they're going to tell you. They're going to be upfront with the repairs. They're going to be upfront with the cost. They know that when something goes down, it is stressful on you. They know that it's not something you want to deal with, but they know that you have to deal with it, and so they make the process easy on you. On top of that, they've got after-hours service calls, text on call. They also can get to you within 24 hours. It includes on a weekend. It's classic air care. They got a 4.8 Google rating because they take care of the customers. They've got over 100 vans on the road. You can count on them like I count on them. Book an appointment online at classicaircare.com. If something goes wrong with your furnace during this winter, call them. They'll get to the house. They'll fix it for you. It's classic air care. They've been making people comfortable since 1926.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues back in action tonight as they visit the Dallas Stars. We'll have pregame coverage tonight starting at 7:30 with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 8:30 with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an Icon Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber, here on 101 ESPN. Blues back in action tonight against the Dallas Stars. They are on the road. It's a late puck drop, and the only local coverage will be right here on 101 ESPN starting at 7:30. Last game prior to the Olympic break. Kerbs, how you doing today?
Brandon, I'm doing good. How are you today?
We're doing all right, Kerbs. So we got one game left prior to this break. How would you summarize what we have seen from the St. Louis Blues in the, not even the first half, but whatever you want to call this, the first segment of the 2025-26 campaign?
Well, let's just summarize the whole season basically to this point. This is what, game number 56, I think, so somewhere in there, and it's been a season of inconsistency for whatever the reason, and I've seen it happen at times before. And it's just, to me, it's an enigma in sports. It's an enigma in a team game where they just haven't found traction, with the style of play. And how much of that is player experience? How much of that is player skill? How much of that is player grit? How much of that is coaching? Everything is on the table, and I'm sure there's probably a mix of every bit of it. So I think you have to, if you're honestly looking at this season the way it is, you have to say, as Doug Armstrong said, a very disappointing one to this point. And you start to look now at what you have. And you're hoping that prior to this Olympic break, they were able to get some traction. You go back, I think it was just January 3rd, right around there. They had just won those two games against Vegas and Montreal, and they found themselves 3 points out of a playoff spot. And here it is just 1 month later, and you're sitting 12 points back, and the reason being because you haven't won a road game since before Christmas. And that's, to me, the road play during this last month, during, from basically December 18th on, the road play since that Florida game is one of the biggest reasons you have fallen that far out of the playoff chase.
Kerbs, the number one question we continue to get asked is, are the Blues going to make a trade between now and that roster freeze today? I'm not going to ask you to predict anything with your crystal ball, but I will ask you, do you think it would make sense for Doug Armstrong to try and pull off a move now rather than wait until March 6th on the deadline?
Listen, look, it's a fantastic topic, Alex, and my gut says you don't see anything. The deadline's at 2:00 Central, right? So, the deadline's coming up in 2 hours and 15 minutes. And there's a couple of actual administrative scenarios here. One, let's say that somebody's interested in one of the Blues players that's going to the Olympics, okay? To me, if that's the case, if you're at this point in time and you haven't consummated a deal at this point in time, if you're the team that wants him, why wait until after? Why get the deal done before the Olympics? Just have it ready to go and say, we'll do it. And if he comes back healthy, we'll make the trade. Like, why would you assume the risk of the player getting hurt over at the Olympics, right? Versus the team that currently has him. So I think that's one reason why you haven't seen a whole lot of deals with this kind of, faux deadline that's going on. The other reason is actually salary cap related. If you're going to end up trading a player that's got some term, that's got some salary on it, a team has to carry that salary on the cap through the Olympic break. If you don't carry that and you have cap space, you still have some extra cap space that accrues. So from a cap space standpoint, if it's a deal you can do after the break, since you've pretty much played it down to one game anyway, I think that's the way it's going to go. And because it doesn't make sense for some of these teams unless they're worried that a deal doesn't happen. From either an injury risk or a cap standpoint, some of these deals, don't make a whole lot of sense. Now, I haven't said that. Who the hell knows what could happen? But to me, my gut says I have a hard time seeing the reasoning why that would happen in that case. But I guess we got 2.5 hours to figure that out.
Kind of a follow-up question on that, Kerbs. Do you think we see just a flurry of moves take place the moment that trade freeze is lifted to where, teams have negotiated the framework of the deal, but they don't want to pay for the guy during the Olympic break? So, hey, call me after the Olympics and we'll just pull the trigger on this deal right away.
I think that's very likely. You got about a week after things get started, week and a half before the deadline kicks in there. You look at the number of games, it's going to be a race to the finish. There are some great races here. I love the fact. How about the fact that, Tampa and even Minnesota, like Minnesota's got, Colorado's too many games in hand on Minnesota, but a team like Tampa, they're actually in a race for the President's Trophy now with Colorado. And who'd have thought that was going to happen? But there's going to be a fantastic race. I do expect some deals. And one of the reasons that I expect some deals is with the salary cap having gone up and with teams knowing, and I love what the NHL did with this salary cap, is they basically said, here's what the cap's going to be for the next 3 years. Remember when they did that last year? Teams now are able to plan and work and do the math, not just for this year, but next year, the year after. And that's a huge help in getting some of these deals done. Plus, with the cap going up, if you look at cap wages, you're going to see that a lot of teams have a lot more salary cap space this year than teams have had in the past. So and you're also seeing, too, I think some teams are going to realize there's got to be some hockey trades because the way some of the teams are constructed just isn't working for them.
Chris Kerber is the voice of the Blues, joins us weekly here on BK and Ferrario. Kerbs, final question that I have for you. I just did some quick math because I was curious where the Blues are at today compared to at this point in the season over the last few years. How do they compare? And this is the number of losses that they had, regulation or overtime, at this exact same point in the season over the last 4 years, including this season. This year, they have 30. Last year, at this point in the season, they had 26. The year before that, 31. The year before that, they had 29. You average that all up, they're basically at the same number of regulation plus overtime losses this year as they have been over the last few. Did we kid ourselves because of a good 2-month stretch this team was going to be better than they actually are? Well, did that just throw us off of the scent of what this team has actually been now for basically 4 consecutive seasons?
Well, I think you just did some great research there because I think what it tells you is that if you go back to that time that you looked the first one up, that's the year that the Blues made a, organizational, philosophical adjustment to say we are going to not re-sign some unrestricted free agents. We're going to go in a direction, and we're going to hope to avoid one of those 7-8 year playoff droughts like San Jose, Edmonton, Jersey, and some of these other teams have done, right? And in that process, Doug Armstrong said there's going to be, 3 or so years of pain. Well, we got some of that. We got a little morphine in us over the last couple months last year in a great playoff series, right? But things kind of went back to it. And he told me at the beginning of the year, and he said this, Doug Armstrong said that he really felt that this year would be the hardest of them. He didn't expect it to be after last season. He's disappointed that something didn't continue from last season. But in the end, maybe his prognosticating was actually right. So, yeah, I think, did we get fooled? I don't know. We didn't get fooled. We lived a great moment. The team earned it. The team got into the playoffs. We were hoping for more that just didn't happen. And I think you're right now back into the point, BK, and okay, why do I go to the game? Why am I excited for the game? Look, I'm loving watching Jimmy Snuggerud continue to grow here. I'm curious if Dalibor Dvorsky continues to take advantage. Do we see more? I love what we saw when Otto Stenberg was up there. Philip Broberg he's developing right in front of your eyes. It's fun to watch. Unlike, say, 2006 when the Blues ended up with a first overall pick and the cupboard was bare, this cupboard is far from bare, and then you could still end up with a pretty high pick here that could be a difference maker. The pain we're going through right now, to me, could be really well worth it, and we may be doing an interview a couple of years from now going, holy smokes, how good was that? And I actually believe that it could be very helpful for the team.
Hey, Kerbs, appreciate the time, man. Enjoy the call tonight. Blues versus the Stars. Pregame at 7:30. Puck drop for that one. Let's be real. 8:50 right here on 101 ESPN. Kerbs will be on the call for that one. The final game prior to the Olympic break. Kerbs, appreciate the time, man. We'll talk with you again next week.
All right, guys. Extended pregame with Alex tonight, which is awesome. We'll talk to you next week. And like I said, one of these days during the Olympic break, we'll come in and we'll hot stove it for a good hour.
Oh, yeah. We're Tinder Tuesdaying it one day with us, Kerbs. It's just you're playing roulette in terms of, are you going to be with me and T-Bone or BK and T-Bone?
Can I be on my own?
No.
Yeah, sure.
Left to your own devices. Nope.
Yeah, no. The next thing you know, you're calling the Butterfinger hotline, Kerbs.
All right. Okay, well, what I was about to think and say, I know I can't. So let's end it here, and then we'll come in and have some fun next week.
Kerbs, appreciate you, man.
See you guys.
You got it. Kerbs Kerber, voice of the Blues, joining us here on 101 ESPN. Appreciate his time as always. Couple of things to pass along. Newsworthy. Mizzou saying that Anor Boateng, a sophomore guard for the team, is expected to miss the remainder of the season after he had successful surgery on Monday for a left leg injury that he suffered during Mizzou's game against Mississippi State. Came down really hard after a dunk attempt. Hard to speculate, but it looked like a potential ACL type of injury. He had surgery on that, going to miss the rest of the season. After that game, Dennis Gates, it was no surprise, said, hey, 9 times out of 10, they missed the rest of the year with this. That's kind of what they were expecting. So that's the Mizzou news. Also from The Athletic, this one's interesting and frankly surprising. Ken Rosenthal reporting the Pittsburgh Pirates are trying again, and Alex, they want their fans to know it. Their latest target is the biggest free agent name remaining on the market. Left-handed pitcher Framber Valdez is a target of the Pittsburgh Pirates. He adds, probably not going to end up there. Probably more likely that one of the Orioles, Braves, Padres, or Blue Jays end up signing him, but the Pirates are interested nonetheless.
I find that report interesting because to me it's twofold. One, it's what you said there, that Pittsburgh Pirates saying, hey, look, fans, we're trying. Look, we're going after this guy. And the second one is, dude, I think Valdez is desperate at this point because his agent is clearly leaking. The Pittsburgh Pirates are interested. Highly doubt it. And yesterday, John Heyman reported, hey, Toronto's kind of involved in this. When there's been no buzz about him at all, I think Baltimore has got him as a fish in a barrel right now, and they're just trying to get a deal on their terms.
Would you consider it if you're the Cardinals?
No, I don't think he makes it. He's older.
He's going to want a long-term contract. If we're talking a one-year deal,
that's
then
what I'm saying. If he has to settle for a pillow deal,
absolutely,
and he won't be attached to the QO next offseason because of it,
and I flip him at the deadline.
You would have to give up. I believe it's their third pick, so I think that would be like
32nd
in next year's draft, right? Not this upcoming draft.
No, this upcoming.
This upcoming run.
I wouldn't do it.
You just added 2 more in the first round or late first round. I'd do it because then I could try and flip him at the draft and get some type of prospect if it's a one-year deal without a QO attached to it.
I wouldn't do it. I don't think it would make sense to give up the third highest you have, especially now that you've got 5 in the top.
I think it's the
75.
50th overall selection that you'd have to give up.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah,
wouldn't
no,
do
I'm
it
not
on
doing that.
I wouldn't do
50th
it,
overall, no.
I wouldn't do it on a 1-year deal
No,
for.
I thought we were talking like
Valdez.
3rd round pick.
And I think the reason he's not getting the offer he wants is I think it's some of his advanced metrics show like, hey, his stuff's probably on the decline, and my fear would be you do a 1-year deal, give up the 50th overall pick, and then he's not very good, and then you don't even flip him, and you just wasted an asset.
He better be good. If he's good, then you could potentially flip him at the deadline, and you get something more valuable to you than the 50th overall selection. That's the calculus that you'd have to make here. Because if he's good and you trade him at the deadline, you probably get more than that. If he's not good and you trade him at the deadline, well, now you gave up the 50th overall selection, and you probably get something significantly worse than that in return. And you had to pay the $20 million for the 2026 season, and you probably had to pay about $15 million of it in order to make it work. So it's expensive, it's risky. I'd consider it, man. I'd give serious consideration to doing something like this. It's the kind of move that would be of interest to me. But it makes you better, and I don't know if that's a good thing for this team.
Yeah.
Maybe they're thinking to themselves, hey, we'd rather have that top 5 selection for 2027.
Because that's honestly where they're going to probably try and attempt to find that bat.
Exactly.
They haven't found the bat via trade, and I don't know if you've got it internally. You might try and go get it there.
Coming up in 15 minutes, the Cardinals have completely revamped their farm system. We'll let you hear what some of the third-party publications have ranked them coming up in about 15 minutes. Questions and answers, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. That's next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. From the 314, do you guys think the Cardinals will have a different lineup every game in 2026, or will it be the same 8 or 9 for most of the time?
Same 8 or 9. I think the same 8. The DH will fluctuate.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. You don't have enough bodies to have different lineups every day.
Yeah, and you're not, like, when you're doing that, where if you're going to have, I'll say 6 as your regulars, you're typically platooning then. You're platooning, like the Pirates, for example, are going to platoon first base. Diamondbacks are going to do the same thing this year. The Cardinals aren't doing that. They don't really care about getting an advantage against righties or lefties this season. Burley's going to go up against right-handed and left-handed pitching, even though he's probably not good enough to do it against lefties. Same with Newport. Newport hasn't been great against lefties recently. Doesn't matter. This year, you're going to send them out there and have them do it.
You're going to find out if you can be an everyday player, lefty or righty.
I think they're mostly going to have the same lineup day to day. From the 618, guys, Josh Schertz, last 3 jobs have all been somewhere in the Midwest. What makes you think that he would want to go back to where he is originally from? He didn't do that after Indiana State when he was a sought-after commodity. It's true. Like, he's basically since 2003, he spent time in North Carolina, East Tennessee, and then Indiana State. Maybe he prefers this part of the country. Or maybe he got his first job in North Carolina, and then regionally, he got more opportunities in the Midwest because people were able to
see him,
get him, right? So it's hard to say. Does he want to be here, or is that where he was offered the opportunities? He was a sought-after commodity after his time at Indiana State. Let's be real, though. It wasn't Michigan State beating down his door. It was places like SLU who wanted to make him their next head coach, and it was a great hire by SLU. We said it at the time. We gave them their kudos, and they deserved all of it. And now you see what the payoff is when you make a big bet on a, relatively speaking, young coach who has shown the ability to get the most out of his players. They got it right. And now they're seeing what it... Now we'll find out if they can keep him. I don't know. But does he want to stay in the Midwest? Does he want to go back east? I think that's going to be one of the big questions going into this offseason, because it seems as though there's going to be a decent number of jobs potentially opening up closer to where he's originally from.
Well, and I mean, it also comes down to the money and the teams that are being offered. Like,
Absolutely.
As much as you love the Midwest, if Oregon comes calling and is throwing a ton of money at you, man, again, I try and put myself in those shoes as much as I love where I'm at. If I'm a younger Josh Schertz, I look at this like this is an opportunity you don't pass up. Just like we talked about with Drink, if LSU became available. You don't pass that up.
From Mahomes Longbody, guys, Super Bowl party or watch the game somewhere where you can actually focus on the game. What do you prefer?
I dislike Super Bowl parties strongly. Every year for the past like 10 years, it's always been I go watch the game with my dad. We just go somewhere to one of our houses. I make or he makes some appetizers. We have beers, and we just sit and watch the game. I want to focus on the game.
Yeah. I like being with like a few buddies. If I can get together with 5 to 10 people, group. That's great. If I'm going to be at a bar where there's hundreds of people, you can't hear anything going on, you are going to the bathroom waiting 20 minutes, and like that does nothing for me. But I'm totally fine with being with 5 to 10 people.
That's kind of what I am. I like if it's 5 to 10 is what we're calling a Super Bowl party. Oh, I'm all in on that. I'd rather do that than just be by myself watching the game.
Yeah,
but I'm cool either way. Bar, I'm kind of with you. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
From the 618, guys, do you think that the Cardinals will utilize a 6-man rotation to open up the season, similar to what they did a year ago? Or do you think that's not as valuable given the young arms they have? I think they will absolutely do that.
I think you should do that. You got a lot of arms right now. Take advantage of it.
And I think we'll see. They think it proves that it helps them keep guys healthier. You know, I don't know how true that really is, but they seem to believe that. And if they think that's what keeps guys from going on the IL, then yeah, you should do that as well to start off the season.
You got no veterans that are in routines like what Waino used to be, to where you need that 5 days off and just like the same schedule over and over. Man, you got a ton of young guys. Just let them go out there and adapt.
And this was their schedule.
Yeah.
In the minors, they do once a week, basically. So it would be a similar schedule to what all of them had in AAA. So, yeah, I think they'll probably go with that to open up the season this year as well. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll get into NFL quick hitters. But next, the Cardinals have completely revamped their farm system. What does it mean for them, and where do they rank now as an organization? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here, and Super Bowl 60 is this Sunday, and DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 60. Look, I've got my parlay in right now. I'm going Seahawks -4.5. I've got JSN for an anytime touchdown scorer, along with him going for 100-plus receiving yards, and Drake May, who's been on the injury report. I'm going for under 220.5 passing yards for Drake May. And get this, all postseason long, and including here in the Super Bowl, DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If a player goes down and you're eligible NFL prop bet in the first half, you still get paid out in cash immediately once your bet settles. No bonus bets, no waiting. So download that DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code Tanner. That's code Tanner to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Baseball America came out with their rankings of the best farm systems in Major League Baseball, Alex.
Yeah. Cardinals, #1, baby.
Not quite, but #2.
Hey, there we go. Where were they last year?
I'd have to
I think I
look.
saw, I'll double check this. I think it was like 12th.
Sometimes you ask questions
Middle
on
of
this.
the pack.
Sometimes you ask questions on this show, and you're like, "Why didn't you do that research last night when you were thinking about this?"
Good question.
Yeah, way to go, Ferrario.
You could have done that.
Yeah.
You chose not to. Hell, you could have done it in the break when you knew what we were going to talk about in the next segment.
I was 18th. They were
19th?
18th last year.
I was busy doing other research, so we'll get to that in the 1 o'clock hour.
Maybe. We'll see.
Oh, you son of a nutcracker.
Cardinals in the Baseball America rankings, #2. In Kylie McDaniel's updated rankings after the
18 to
trade,
2.
they were at #7. They moved up from 9th to 7th in his organizational rankings. Moral of the story, regardless of where you look, whether it's Keith Law, Kylie McDaniel, Baseball America, MLB Pipeline, all of the, they seem to be somewhere in that like 2 to 7 range. They're top 10 in Major League Baseball in what they have available to them in their farm system. They have completely revamped what they have down on the farm. That was the expectation. That was needed. That is the starting point for what had to happen for them to then have this, rebuild.
Build. Come on, man.
Alex, how excited? I'm going to ask you this question because I think for some, I have not looked at the text line yet, but my guess is some will say, yeah, okay, we've heard this before. Remember last time that we heard this when they had Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman and Mason Wynn and Alec Burleson and Tink Hence and Yvonne Herrera.
Was that #2 by Baseball America?
It was
They were up
pretty
there,
high,
top
yeah.
5. I remember we had Keith Law on the show, and he said the Cardinals could trade for any player in Major League Baseball because of what they currently have available to them in their farm system.
Maybe that was the bigger problem for the Cardinals.
Maybe.
Freaking Mo.
Are you allowing yourself to get excited about these young players, or at this point, are you gun shy because of how many of these high-level prospects we've seen fail over the last 5 to 7 years?
No, I'm getting excited for it. And, I mean, it's a different tune that Ferrario is singing now about this Cardinals team, but it's a different regime. Why am I getting excited? Because of this scenario where they did the same thing? Because it's a different group of people that are working with these younger players. You've got different minds working with your pitchers in terms of developing them in the minor league system. You've got different minds working with your hitters that are developing them. And I don't believe Chaim Bloom's going to look at this as, well, we need these guys to get to the major league level as quick as possible. It sounds like, and take him for his words rather than his actions right now, that they look at this as they'll be here when they're ready to compete at this level. So I am excited about this, and it's a weird place to be, but I've always sung this tune. It's refreshing to see the Cardinals do this. It sucks that the next 2 to 5 years could be awful, but man, if you're talking about all of these pitchers that have catapulted you towards the top, if you're talking about some of these position players that could be something, and the potential of another couple of top 10 picks, it's hard not to get excited about it, because with the rebuild, you get excited for the anticipation of what you could have, and then obviously it kicks you in the groin area when you find out that all of this failed and you go into another rebuild. But I try not to think about that right now. I get excited for what they've done to their system.
I'm extremely gun-shy on it because we've seen how prospects can just flame out. And my biggest fear for the system right now is that they are this high up, and yet I don't know if they have the superstar prospect yet. And we'll see, like, Weatherholt might prove me wrong, but, like, anything you read, like, up on J.J. Weatherholt, sounds like he's going to be a very good player, but maybe not the superstar the Cardinals are looking for, right? Walker was that guy. Like, when you would read up on Jordan Walker, it was, dude, this kid's 19 years old. He's barreling the crap out of the baseball. He hits it extremely hard. He felt like a five-tool player. Well, maybe not defensively, but he had power. He had speed, athleticism. Like, you just read it and were like, that is like the perfect player that you could build, right? And I don't see that in the system right now. My biggest fear is that they do what they did the last time around, which is they ended up being right on a lot of those pieces. Like you mentioned, Mason Wynn's become a good baseball player. Herrera, good baseball player. Burleson, good baseball player. They didn't develop the star, and they just kind of the team stalled out. Not so much the players, but the team stalled out as a whole because of it. That's why I'm very gun shy on to say, like, does this excite me? No, because anytime you're in a rebuild, it's hard for me to get excited because I don't know when you get to exit out of it.
I'm cautiously optimistic would be the way that I would frame it. I would rather have these top prospects than not. Like, the alternative is you don't have any of these guys ranked highly. Your organization is not only failing at the top end, but you're also failing below. And so what is there to look forward to? Well, that would suck. That would be the worst case scenario. Can these guys all fail? Yeah. Yeah. More often than not, prospects don't become the players they were supposed to be. But my expectation is that at least some of these guys will work out. We got this text from the 314. Guys, prospects are prospects for a reason. It was referenced yesterday when Bloom was in Boston. He had 11 or 12 of the top 100 prospects, and only one of them has really turned into anything at the big league level. Let's go through this. In 2022, Boston had 4 top 100 prospects. At number 14, Marcelo Meyer. He is, at this point, a major league player. He's a contributor. They expect him to be a starter this season. He has not become a stud at the major league level, but they're expecting big things out of him. Number 16, Tristan Casas, when healthy, has been a productive player at the major league level. Number 75, left-handed starter Kyle Harrison, has not developed into a stud, but is a fine major league caliber pitcher. Number 85, Jarren Duran, stud. Absolute stud. All-star. If they decided to trade him, could get a ton in return. Go to 2023. Meyer, Harrison, Casas, they're all in the top 25. We have already mentioned them. At number 85, Rafaela, a guy that they are counting on as a starter this season for them and is a good major leaguer. The following season, it was Meyer, Harrison, Roman Anthony, who we have not mentioned. He was at 24, stud, absolute superstar already in the making. And then Rafaela at 76 once again. And then this past season, you started to cycle through those guys. They finally made it to the major league level, and they are now legitimate MLB caliber talents. So where are these 11 or 12 prospects that the texter is telling me failed at the major league level. It's just not true. When these guys got to the major league level, coming through Chaim Bloom's farm system previously, they more often than not succeeded. Now, we'll see what the potential is for all of these guys. But they got through the system, got to the major league level, had some success. That's the process that you're hoping that your prospects will now go through now that you have a revamped farm system. So I reject the premise.
I don't know if we needed the tone at the end.
I reject the premise.
Like,
I think it's wrong. I don't think it's true that they had 11 or 12 of the top 100 prospects and only one of them turned into anything.
Wasn't he asked about Tampa Bay too? I think Tampa was the one with the draft picks that he was asked about.
Oh, sure. That was from one draft.
That wasn't
from the top 100 prospect rankings.
Also early on in his tenure.
Yeah, I don't know how much he oversaw.
I can't go off of Chaim Bloom in his first couple of years in Major League Baseball.
If you want to talk about what he did with the Rays, we can go ahead and do that. Like, we can look at their track record of what they did in their farm system.
Ooh. Are you going to puff your chest out?
Tough guy over here.
We can have that conversation if you want.
Okay, tough guy.
Why don't you do that research on the break?
Yeah, yeah.
Man, we can go ahead and go through this.
Are you about to yell it out at me? Yeah.
The Red Sox one, like I'm kind of with you. Maybe not with the tone, but like to sit here and
definitely without the tone.
To sit here and act as if like all of these guys failed. Guys, the Red Sox are pushing right now. Why are they pushing? Because all of the pieces that Chaim Bloom spent drafting and developing have turned into pros. But I think everybody sees Chaim Bloom in the Red Sox and say, I traded Mookie Betts, he was a failure, and then everyone else that's been in the system has developed. Like I heard Ken Rosenthal talking about it yesterday of the pitcher that they traded for Wilyer Abreu. And Rosenthal was like, I obliterated Chaim Bloom for that trade because it's like, you don't need to do this. I think it was Christopher Sanchez, or I don't remember who the pitcher was he was talking about. But like, to sit here and act as if the Red Sox had one strike while Chaim Bloom was there is just inaccurate. I mean, they continued to have success. It's just they're reaping the benefits of it now because when you draft and develop in baseball, you got to wait 5 or 6 years before these guys are ready, rather than in other sports to where, boom, they're immediately superstars.
Correct.
Yeah.
Was that less tone?
I don't know.
I thought that was pretty good.
The other thing, too, like when you develop a system like this, right now, when you're Boston, you have outs if you don't develop the star, right? They could go out and sign a big-time free agent if they needed to. We'll see if the Cardinals will have that ability. But you look at what Seattle just did, where they made this trade for Brendan Donovan. You look at what the Red Sox have been able to do this offseason, where they're able to trade some prospects for Sonny Gray and Contreras. When you're developing this deep of a system, what you're also doing, too, is creating the opportunity to go out and make moves as well. And I think that's what's the most important. We'll see if you end up hitting on these guys, but you want to have that deep organizational depth within your top 20 to where when someone trades for your 7th best prospect, fans on the other side are going, we didn't even get a top 5 guy. Well, no, he's not top 5 because our system is that good.
Somebody on the YouTube chat in the graveyard said you need to bust out the Victorian accent for when BK just, I reject your premise, sir. I reject it. I reject your premise.
I mean, what do you want from me?
No, sir.
Just reject your premise.
I reject your premise.
It was all great points, and then you had to put in the tone at the end.
I reject it.
Well, I used supporting evidence to
you
get to the place
wrong,
where
good sir.
the texter was wrong.
You will not be heard from.
Am I just supposed to say that's not incorrect? It is. It's
now
incorrect.
Exit my property before I call law enforcement.
They were wrong.
I reject it.
Oh, even adding to it, stupid statement.
I need to make a T-shirt of like BK wearing glasses and one of those gavels. It just says, "I reject your premise. You are wrong, sir."
If we want to talk about how bad drafts are, like we could also do that. Major League Baseball drafts more often than not
always
fail.
bad.
You have like a 50-50 proposition of getting it right in the first round. Now imagine how bad those odds are once you get to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and so on.
Didn't the Astros go like 3 straight years of top 5 picks and none of them panned out to be anything?
Didn't sign with the team.
It was the first
overall
pick.
selection, and then they had a few that were horrible, and then finally they got it right with like Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman, a bunch of those other guys that became the core nucleus for their cheating. Timo.
Thank you.
I reject it.
No, I accept that one.
Yeah,
Harumph. This is preposterous. All of these texts coming in are phenomenal. Call them a peasant, BK. You are a peasant, sir. You don't speak to me with that tone.
No bread for you.
I am the one in charge. I have done the research. I reject. Harumph.
All right, listen, maybe a little over the top.
You will not get any pieces of this, sir.
Somebody said when I talk like this, I should get one of those big white wigs.
Like all the Boston Bruins wore when they got off the bus in the Stadium Series.
Well, someone says we should get him a bow tie.
I need a ruling, sir. I do say, my good sir, this is faulty research that you have
Should
done.
I get a gavel? Like, you know how TMA has the gun?
You didn't hear me when I said that
No,
earlier. did you?
I heard you say that about the image.
Hold on.
I'll get an actual gavel, though. And anytime somebody says something nonsensical, there we go.
I reject, good sir. I reject your premise.
I'll put on the crown and then
I have done the research last night. I used an Excel sheet. You are a peasant.
BK, I'm not disagreeing with you. I just need you to acknowledge that you were wrong about putting Kyle Harrison in the top 100 as a Red Sox. He came over in the Devers trade as a big leaguer. He wasn't theirs. If you look back in the MLB top 100, it shows the current team, not the previous one. I do apologize.
You do not talk back, peasant, to
I apologize.
BK.
You don't use.
I was on a roll. I apologize.
Someone said, bust out your monocle and slap him with your glove.
I'm going to get BK a turkey leg.
I will go back to my bedchambers and I will return when you use a different tone with me. Just to entertain the crowd.
Big illusion. BK, Brandon the King. I got a lot that I could say to that. I'll choose not to. Coming up next, NFL Quick Hitters here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Let's dive into some NFL quick hitters. The Super Bowl's this weekend, guys.
Oh, sorry. Let's talk more about the Pro Bowl last night, because
I didn't watch any of it.
The Pro Bowl
It was the saddest thing
is
I've
the
ever
precursor
seen.
to the Super Bowl. I saw video highlights of Joe Burrow running the football, and it sounds like he's an incredible runner.
Cool. The NFC won 66-52. I don't know what the format was. I don't know how it works
That's
this
an
year.
enthralling football game.
Don't particularly care. Can't believe they played it on a Tuesday. Either way,
Well, in a practice gym.
what's the buzz? Have you guys seen any? I feel like this is the least amount of buzz I've seen for a Super Bowl in a really long time.
Because it's probably the least entertaining matchup in terms of teams in a really long time, since the Cardinals and Steelers, probably.
Do people disagree with that? Do you reject my premise?
I do not, good sir. I think you are spot on this one. I kind of feel the same as you. Like, I saw a little bit come out of the opening press conferences that
All
were
I saw on
Monday.
I'm not saying this, truly, the only clips that I really saw were about Mike Vrabel talking about how much of his he'd be willing to cut off in order to win the Super Bowl. That's
How
the
much?
only clip. Half.
Oh, wow.
Why would you only cut off half?
Well, did you hear
I thought you were gonna
the
say the
previous
one.
clip? He was on Bussin' with the Boys, said, this is like 5-10 years ago, said, I'd cut it all off in order to
Yeah.
get me a Super Bowl, and they had him back on, and they said, hey, would you still be willing to do that? He said, well, I'd actually be willing to do half.
Why would you be willing to cut it all off?
Go watch the clip.
I just don't understand why.
It's a funny clip. I can't really repeat
doesn't
the rest.
sound very.
Otherwise,
I
it'll get us kicked
reject
off
your
here.
premise, sir.
The one I saw was, I thought you were going to say Mike McDonald saying, dude, I'm tired of answering questions about what would I do on whatever it was, 3rd and goal from the 1, a game on
I
the
didn't see
line.
that.
Yeah, he got asked multiple times about it. He's like, if I've got Marshawn Lynch in the backfield, I'd run the football. So take that, Pete Carroll.
Should have.
Yeah.
Be talking about a Super Bowl.
But yeah, I'm with you. There's no real buzz, and I think it's more. This is why I kind of pushed back on about the defense with the Seahawks when we talked about that. Was that Monday maybe or last week? Of hey, that's the biggest storyline of the Super Bowl. Typically, it's just the quarterbacks people care about, right? They're always the ones that we talk about as the
point.
GOATs. And when you don't have a Brady, you don't have a Mahomes, even when you don't have a Joe Cool, Joe Burrow, even though it was his first Super Bowl, he had some swag to him, man, and he beat Mahomes, by the way, which added to it. What am I going to point to for Drake May and Sam Darnold? Drake May, I don't know. He just doesn't have that kind of persona. Sam Darnold, same way. It's kind of a boring quarterback matchup.
If sports betting wasn't available, I don't know if I'd be watching the Super Bowl from start to finish. I don't know how entertaining it's going to be. And maybe I'm proved wrong and this is a great football game, but it just seems like it's a mismatch, but it also seems like you have no compelling players that draw me to the game.
See, that's my thing. I think it could actually be a really good game. I think there's a chance. I don't know how entertaining it'll be, but I think there's a chance it'll be a really close, well-played overall game. I just think it lacks stars. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba was maybe the best receiver in the NFL this season. He's not a household name yet.
Yeah.
He may become one. It kind of, honestly, it reminds me of that Thunder versus Pacers NBA Finals.
Last year.
It's not the same. That one felt like a huge mismatch going in. This one, I don't feel the same way about it. Maybe you do, Alex. But that one lacked current superstars in the NBA that had the name recognition, but they were the best players in the NBA. Chet is amazing. SGA is unbelievable. Tyrese Halliburton is so good. Well, was before the injury, and was carrying his team to the NBA Finals. So it has a lot of similarities to that, where these are maybe the next faces of the NFL at their respective positions, but they haven't been able to get this kind of prominent FaceTime yet. The Seahawks were not a huge national television team this year. The Patriots had only a couple really primetime style games. There was that one where they were playing on, I think it was Monday Night Football, where they went up against the Bills. That was kind of their coming out party this season when they won that first one, when it knocked me out of my survivor pool, Alex.
Oh, that's a shame.
That's a hard one to suffer from, man. I'm sure you were distraught from that.
But beyond that, there aren't a whole lot of players that I think America knows yet. And I think Sunday will be the opportunity for us to really get to know them. But we have to be interested in the storylines. And I'm not sure that anything has captured people's interest just yet.
This is interesting. You mentioned the NBA Finals. You're more of an NBA guy than me. I still don't feel like SGA's really taken on that role yet. And they're the most dominant team in the NBA this year.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring that up, it's different in the NBA because some of the bigger names are basically on the outs at this point. LeBron on the verge of retiring. KD's getting up there in age as well. I think the problem that you're going to have for like Drake May or maybe not so much JSN because he's more of the receiver room, but the problem that I think these guys are going to have of like taking this as the leaping off point from the Super Bowl to becoming the next kind of big talking point to the NFL. Dude, Mahomes is still in his prime. Josh Allen is still in his prime. Lamar is still in his prime. Burrow is still in his prime. And all the conversations are going to be around not, oh, wow, look at what New England Patriots are doing. It's going to be like, oh, Mahomes is disappointing. They're not in the playoff race again. Or what are the Chiefs going to do? It's all going to still be centered around those guys, I think, compared to these new faces if they are emerging.
I feel that way about Seattle. I do not feel that way about New England. If Drake May wins the Super Bowl this year, that guy should be in the same conversation with all of the other quarterbacks that you just mentioned. Why wouldn't he be? What's he missing? He would basically have done what Joe Burrow failed to do in the end, where he gets through the postseason, gets to the Super Bowl, and finishes the job. So why wouldn't he be considered among the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL and the potential face of the AFC along with I would say Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. I would say it's those 3 at that point because he'll have done what Lamar Jackson has failed to do, which is get to the Super Bowl and win it.
I think the thing that helps Lamar, though, is he's won, multiple MVPs? Like, I think that's what really boosts his stock.
Unbelievable style of play.
Yeah, he's different. Drake May, again, like with Drake May, I don't know that he does anything that you are like extremely, I don't know if impressed is the right word, but like you mentioned Lamar, he doesn't have anything like Lamar, right? Like Lamar stands out because of his game.
And Josh is just a freak.
Yeah,
Mahomes has all of the...
Drake's not any of that, in my opinion. That's not to like rip on Drake
what's
May.
Burrow then? Why is Burrow fit into that category?
Is what I would call Burrow.
Well, why is Drake May any different?
I'd put Drake May in that conversation. I mean, if we're talking, and Josh Allen's there because he's just done it so much.
And he's 6'5", 250, runs like a gazelle. I mean, he's ridiculous.
But still, like, this is only the 2nd or 3rd year for Drake May, and, like, we're already talking about a Super Bowl. And if he goes out there and wins it, and he's going to do it because of his ability to make guys better around him because he's got no incredible studs on the weapons side, I mean,
And he might win the MVP this year, by the way. We're not sure yet.
You have to put him. And if they win, if the Patriots win, I'd almost guarantee you Drake May is going to be the MVP. So I think you have to put him in that conversation.
If Drake May wins the MVP in his 2nd year as a starting quarterback in the NFL, and then goes to the Super Bowl, wins that, and wins Super Bowl MVP, he'll be on a short list of quarterbacks that have ever done that in their first 3 seasons. So I find them to be the more compelling story. The Seahawks are a really interesting team, and the way that they built this thing up is kind of amazing, honestly. But I'm trying to think of the way to describe this. They are more of the dime a dozen outlier season teams. They feel more similar to me to like the Carolina Panthers when they went on that crazy run. They had Cam Newton, so I guess it's a little different. But like it was a one-off, and then they were gone, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that could be Cincinnati, right?
The
with Burrow.
Chicago Bears, the Bengals, I guess, would fit into this criteria as well. The Bears from 20-plus years ago. The Ravens with Joe Flacco, that team that got there. Like, this feels more similar to that to me for the Seahawks. Whereas with the Patriots, I think it could be the start of them going on a maybe not dominant run, but a run of being a real contender in the AFC for the next decade because of Drake May.
I agree with that because, like, I think I said this earlier in the week. This, in theory, is the weakest team they're going to have under May with this rookie contract, right? They should be able to upgrade. Like, we've talked about this. Who's their best weapon? It's Stephon Diggs, and Diggs at this point is kind of washed up in his career. Still a good player, but not what he was in his prime. In theory, this should be his weakest team. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm just still having a tough time. Like, I'm not disagreeing with the premise. In theory, I think he should be there. I just feel like we're not talking about, like, he's part of the reason there's no buzz around the Super Bowl, right? This should be a big conversation for Drake May. And we're not talking about him. And I think it's because he's still overshadowed with the rest of the AFC.
Here we go. You ready?
Boy.
I reject your premise, sir.
Yes,
and I think that's wrong. I think we should be talking about this. Dude, Drake May's doing something that almost never happens. He took a team that was, like, at the bottom of the barrel. He dragged them to the playoffs at 14-3. This team won 14 games in the regular season. I know they didn't play anybody. They still won 14 games. That's crazy. And now they got to the playoffs, and he's doing the thing that he needs to every round. I know they have not gone up against the best offenses. That's part of their story. These defenses they've gone up against have been unreal, man. The path here is well, to be crazy. Fair. I think he has, though. I think he's played pretty well.
And he's played injured, too.
With his legs. He has not thrown the ball particularly well. He's also throwing to Kayshon Boutte and Ramondre Stevenson and Hunter Henry as his top 3 targets. Those are his 3 highest valued receivers in the postseason so far. So I'll give him a little grace for not having any, but Mac Collins has basically the same amount of receiving yards in the postseason as Stephon Diggs with 15 fewer targets. So, yeah, I'll give him a little bit of grace on that.
How dare you question the king? Off to the chambers with you.
Sorry,
Coming up
senor.
next.
I
don't
love
know
it.
what else to do.
By the way, a little news to pass along. It sounds like, and it's just a couple of rumors right now, it sounds like Artemi Panarin might be headed to the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Oh, my God.
This is great, guys, because the Capitals weren't involved with it.
Tampa Bay, man, what an incredibly run franchise.
It's
Them in
Tampa Bay.
Florida.
It's Tampa Bay, and it's Vegas. Now, the thing to keep in mind with Tampa Bay, though, if this is true and it happens, now remember the new rule has kicked in that teams in the playoffs, their lineup in a game has to be cap compliant to this year's salary cap. So like the 20 guys that are playing in a game, that has to be cap compliant. And if they're able to pull this off, it's because they're able to put Braden Point on LTIR. They've already got some other guys that have been dealing with injuries. But again, it's
Point's
just
already on LTIR. So
yeah, they put him on last night to add, I think it's whatever his salary is to wear, but
9.5.
yeah. So but just keep in mind with it. But again, it's one individual who is a reporter for the Tampa Bay Lightning that says it sounds like he's on the move. We'll wait and see. An hour and a half, guys. Well, an hour and 22 minutes.
Yeah, so right now they could make it work. Is Point coming back at any point this year? Do we know?
My assumption is he'll be back. He was skating today with the team, so my assumption is he would be back post-Olympics, if not for the playoffs, for sure.
They probably have to include one of these other guys in that deal.
Probably. Like, I think I saw...
Ryan McDonough?
Or Bjorkstrand. I think Bjorkstrand's like 30 years old, and he's like making like, what, $3 or $4 million?
McDonough has a $6.75 million contract this year and then 4.1 after.
I don't know if they'd get rid of him, though. You need defense. Bjorkstrand's 5.4 this year, and then he's a UFA after this season. So you move that, and then you probably have to attach a decent draft pick. Apparently, the report last night was that the Rangers asked for Ryan Leonard from Washington to trade Panarin, and the Washington Capitals said, hell no. But the Capitals were willing to give him $50 million contract extension, which is why my tie and what Jeff Merrick told us with the Capitals, I find fascinating, because if they miss out on Panarin, they obviously want an upgrade on offense, and they want help for the future. Dude, if it is true that he goes to Tampa as a Blues fan, that's exciting because maybe you could pull a deal off with the Capitals.
18-1-1 in their last 20 games.
Who's that?
The Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, I know. And all of this, by the way, has been without Point. They've been without Hedman for some time.
Have you seen what Kucherov has done since his return?
Yeah, he's a monster. Well, they got a defenseman who's like 31 years old, who was he wasn't drafted. He's been kind of a fringe seventh defenseman, Darren Radish. Dude's like a point-per-game player right now for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's absurd what they can pull off.
Nikita Kucherov, since the start of January, has 11 goals and 39 points.
Oh, my God. Wow.
Just the good news is Gavin McKenna apparently is the next Nikita Kucherov, guys.
That sounds great. I'm in.
Well, you got to get that first, and unfortunately, Vancouver is a lot worse than you.
Coming up next, what can you expect from pitchers in this range of the top 100? T-Bone will tell you next here on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK. The big game is right around the corner. And Alex, they've got a lot of different options for you over on the Underdog app. They've got a boost builder. That's what I took advantage of over there. You can also check out, maybe they've got a deal reveal ready to go for you. Whatever it is, it's all available for you over on the Underdog app. For me, I like Rashid Shaheed to go higher than 4.5 rushing yards in the big game. I've got Hunter Henry to score a touchdown, and I've got Drake May lower than 34.5 on his longest completion in this game. Put those together, $5 entry, could win me $50.
I do not reject that premise, sir. So make sure you're checking out this Underdog app every single day because they've got new promos that are dropping daily on the app. And if you like making entries and winning money, Underdog is the place to be for the big game this weekend. So what are you waiting for? Download the Underdog app today and use promo code BKO and score $75 in fantasy bonus entries when you play your first $5 on fantasy. That's promo code BKO. Underdog, make plays, win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/playing. Get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues back in action for the final time before the Olympic break tonight as they visit the Dallas Stars. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 7:30 with Alex Ferrario, puck drop at 8:30 with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating Cooling, an Icon Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So T-Bone, when it was announced that the Cardinals were trading for Jurrangelo Cijntje, looked into other pitchers in recent years that were ranked similarly on the top 100 prospects list. In other words, that 90 to 100 range. Show the very final 10 players on the top 100 list. T-Bone, what did you learn? What does that tell us about reasonable expectations for Cijntje now that he's a Cardinal?
Yeah, so when I looked this up, I went back to 2015, and there's about 36 different names. There's some guys that pop up twice in that 90 to 100 range, but I wanted to separate. There's about 36 names that are on there. It's about a 15% chance that I would label it that you end up getting a stud. And what I would call that would be guys like Walker Buehler. I know he wasn't that this year, but when he first came up with the Dodgers, he was really good. Brandon Woodruff, very good starting pitcher before he started dealing with injuries. George Kirby, Joe Ryan, Bryce Miller, I would put in that conversation as well. Even Montas early on in his career with Oakland. About 15% chance that you end up with a guy like that. And then there are a couple of guys that will also be good big leaguers, like Grant Holmes is someone that has eventually gotten to the big leagues, been pretty solid. Same with Cal Quantrill was a guy that got to the big leagues in this range, 90 to 100. But there's still the more likely out of it that the guy will flame out. But the reason that I wanted to look this up was when I think of like position player prospects, for example, in like the 75 to 100 range. I typically think of guys that come up and end up becoming just kind of complementary pieces for the most part. Like you mentioned Tristan Casas earlier in the show. Casas was one of those guys, and he's not become a superstar, but when he's healthy, he's a good player. Same with Jaron Duran is someone that has been in this range. Not a superstar, but a very good player. The reason I wanted to look this up was to see, okay, is there still upside of a pitcher that's in this range that can get to the big leagues and be a 1 or 2 for a rotation? And the answer is yes. There are guys that have done this, and though 15% sounds like a small sample, it's actually pretty impressive that that's the number that you end up at. And it's really important, I think, to point out, 2 of those guys that I mentioned on my list here, Bryce Miller and George Kirby, were in the Mariners system where Pierpont was, who's now here running things for the St. Louis Cardinals.
It's really interesting, and I think if I just told you, hey, there's a 1 in 6 chance that the Cardinals got a 1 or a 2 and their trade for Brendan Donovan,
I would be stoked.
That's basically what those odds tell you. 1 in 6 times, this guy goes on to become a superstar, a stud, top of the rotation kind of starter.
And I know that sounds...
That means 5 out of 6 times he does not.
Right. I know that sounds crazy to say I would be stoked for that, but then give me the percentage of me drafting somewhere between 15 and 30 in the first round of how often you get a 1 or a 2 there.
Exactly.
I guarantee that percentage is lower than 1 out of 6.
Well, you just keep giving yourself a shot.
Yeah.
So if there's a 1 in 6 chance that Cijntje becomes a really good starting pitcher at the major league level, and let's call it a 50-50 proposition with Liam Doyle, that he becomes what we're talking about here. And then you've got, I don't know, a 1 in 10 shot on Cooper Jerpy, who's hurt right now, and TK Roby, who's hurt right now, or Quinn Matthews, who had a great season 2 years ago and this past year was just okay for the Cardinals in the minor league system. You add all of this up and you look at your odds and you think to yourself, all right, we've got a pretty good shot here of having somebody that emerges from our farm system that can be, I don't know, a number 2 or a number 3 on a contending baseball club. That's what you're doing here if you're in Chaim Bloom's shoes. You just keep giving yourself more outs to potentially have what is needed in the rotation, because for far too long, they've put all of their eggs in like 2 or 3 baskets. Mm-hmm. They've said, if these guys don't work out, we're screwed. And we're going to have to make up for that by going over to the free agent market, and we'll have to sign somebody for 15 to 20 million bucks in order to make up for what we failed to produce from our minor league system. Now they're giving themselves a chance to not have to do that in 2026 or beyond.
Yeah, and I think a perfect example, you tell me if you disagree with this, was Alex Reyes. All the eggs were in the basket of Reyes becomes the guy that becomes the stud for the front of the rotation. And if you didn't hit on him, they weren't really sure where to go. Now, I think they got Flaherty that ended up coming right behind him, which kind of had them luck out. But that was one of their biggest banks, right? And the important reason why you take shots on these is this isn't like a position player where it is, for the most part, you kind of have an idea of what they could become when they get to the big leagues, and they typically stay on a decent trajectory. Man, pitchers, they can look great, boom, one arm injury, and they're never the same guy again. And that's why I think it's really important that you have a bunch of outs for when you're trying to develop pitching, because we've seen you can feel great about what you have in your pitching pipeline. And then it just takes 2 or 3 guys that get injured. It sets back their development, or they just never end up getting back to being the same guy again. And it's how a pitching pipeline can dry up super fast like it did on the St. Louis Cardinals.
I also think it's a smart way that they've been operating to this, to where you just take as many pitchers as possible through these trades. And then if your team is bad like you think it's going to be, you get a high draft pick, and that high draft pick can potentially be that bat that you're trying to find. Because how often is it at the top of the draft you see big-time bats that actually pan out versus pitchers?
Table Rock Lake Monster adds Eshawn Henderson and Bryson Motts are 2 other names to note. They were both in Springfield last year. Dealt won a championship. Good pedigree, potential options there as well. Yeah, 2 other pitchers. I don't think they have the same upside as some of the starters that we've been talking about here, but can they become major league starting caliber pitchers? Yeah, absolutely. And if you have Motts and Henderson, and you continue this with Liam Doyle, and now you add in somebody in Senja, like you keep giving yourself these options. And then you look at the major league level right now. You've got McGreevy. You just added Richard Fitz. You've got Dobbins. You've got Matthew Liberatore still here. After looking at what they've been able to do both this offseason and then dating back really to the deadline of last year, and then you include last year's draft as well, they've completely overhauled their pitching pipeline on how they go about adding to or developing their pitchers, and then also the actual players that are now available to them and what kind of stuff they have to work with too. That's it. They are prioritizing some of the tools that they did not have in the lower levels previously. That's what makes me maybe most excited about the next wave of pitching, is that it's not just that they are developing them differently. It's also the actual makeup of the players is different than what they had. The ball of clay, the starting point, is different than what John Mozeliak and his lieutenants were looking for. Now they're looking for big fastballs with the potential to spin it. Yeah. Previously, they were looking for, all right, can you sink it, and can you get the ball on the ground? That worked for a really long time until it didn't, and now you've got to pivot and do something different. I think they've got the people in place to be able to do that now, so we'll see if it works. That's going to be the next thing. Like I said this on Twitter yesterday, some people got mad at me, but Chaim Bloom has done everything that you could ask for this offseason. He's speaking to fans in the right way. It's refreshing. I think yesterday when he was on the call and somebody brought up, hey, you made a couple of new additions to the staff, and he's like, yeah, we weren't really ready to announce this, but I'll go ahead and do it since it's already been out there. And then he addressed it publicly. I think that's good. I think that's smart. They should address it that way. They are being judged with almost like kid gloves this offseason because everybody knows the direction they're going in. They're not going to be judged on the win-loss record in 2026. Eventually they will, though, and then we'll have to see the wins start to come on the right side of the ledger. But for right now, I don't think you could ask for a whole lot more from Chaim Bloom in what is really his first full offseason as the Cardinals president of baseball operations.
When people got upset with you on Twitter, did you tell them that you reject their
No, they
negativity?
rejected him.
Oh, but he rejects their rejection.
No, they said, why aren't you judging them on wins and losses? That doesn't make sense. What are you judging them on? And
did you have to break the news to that person?
My honest to God answer
there.
is, I'm not going to judge them on something that they have stated is not their goal.
Yeah.
If their goal this season is about the process and their goal is to get better for 2027 and beyond, I can take them at that. That's fine. I'm cool with it. And their actions have supported that stated goal. Previously, when their goal was we're going to win as many games as possible and their actions didn't support that goal, then you criticize them for doing so. But right now, they're saying one thing and their actions support it. Hey, man, eventually you're going to have to start winning. But right now, that is not the time to do so. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Junk Drawer is next.
Tanner Hendrickson here, and Super Bowl 60 is this Sunday, and DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 60. You look at that DraftKings Sportsbook app, I think it's the best to be doing player props on, mostly because, get this, they've got your back this postseason and during the Super Bowl with early exit protection. So if a player goes down in the first half of your eligible NFL prop bet, you still get paid out in cash immediately once your bet settles. No bonus bets, no waiting. A couple prop bets that I really like: JSN anytime touchdown score, a JSN 100-plus receiving yards, Drake May under 220.5 passing yards. They've also got futures bets that you can put over there for Super Bowl MVP. So be sure to check out that DraftKings Sportsbook app. Download it now and use my promo code Tanner. That's code Tanner to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Let's dive into the junk drawer. NBA news. The Dallas Mavericks, Alex, are trading 10-time NBA All-Star Anthony Davis. He is going to the Washington Wizards. You going to read about this in the Post tonight?
Come on, man. You ain't gonna do him like that.
Can you imagine being the person in charge of that kind of a decision and being like, all right, yeah, like we're getting rid of the sports department the day that the Washington Wizards made a massive deal that would be the perfect kind of story to cover for your local beat writer for the Washington Wizards. And instead, they completely cut the department. It is nauseating what has taken place with the Washington Post. We don't have to get too much into it,
You
but
didn't have to kick them while they were down, man.
no, I mean, I feel for everybody that worked at the place. It's not their fault that the guy in charge is not making smart decisions.
Oh, yeah, nice save.
My project worked today, boys.
Nice save.
I remember when the Washington Post would send us emails of you get a chance to reach out for all their great stories.
They had the best sports department in the country, and they just completely gutted it. I mean, you think about PTI, pardon the interruption, the most successful show on ESPN for the last 20 years. It was basically just two guys that were in the Washington Sports.
That's right. I forgot
department,
about that.
or Washington Post Sports Department that would talk back and forth. And because their conversations were so engaging, people were like, you guys should just like do this for a show. And they started up a TV show. And it was just them arguing about sports for 30 minutes with the clock on all of the different things. And that became what is effectively now the standard for sports television.
You and I should do a TV show then, man.
We basically do. It's youtube.com/101ESPN STL.
That's right. Forgot about that. Do they use tone on that show?
We do. They actually do, yeah.
I was going to say, I think they
Tony
do.
Kornheiser is an old curmudgeon, and I love him.
Kornheiser used to just go after it. And it's like, whoa. I thought I'll never work in a business like that. And then get with the Tone Ranger over here.
What is the comparison for Anthony Davis? The guy was one of the biggest prospects to come out of high school, had an unbelievably successful short college career, 1 year at Kentucky, gets to the NBA, is highly successful in the NBA, but plays for a team that more often than not wasn't very good while he was in New Orleans, but was a consistent, top 10 MVP candidate, all-star every year, defensive player of the year candidate, finally gets traded to the Lakers. Has success immediately with them, and then it just fizzles out. The injuries have kind of taken hold, ends up getting traded in one of the biggest bombshell trades in NBA history for Luka Doncic, and now he's going to be on the Wizards for basically what is the remainder of his prime.
I don't know if there is a comparison.
Resembles this?
I don't know if there is a comparison for what you just laid.
He's a Hall of Famer. He's going to be an NBA Hall of Famer.
I don't know if this guy would fit or not. Vladdy? Would Vladdy fit that?
Not to this degree.
I guess he was with the team he was drafted by was good, too.
Because you got to think, he was the #1 overall pick. This was a guy that in college was the superstar at Kentucky.
Do you think he's not here yet? Could Zion be this?
He's never as good in the NBA as Anthony Davis was.
Yeah, but he's still like the focal point of that team's build. And once again, it's New Orleans.
Here's the one that I could think of. Taylor Hall.
In the NHL?
Drafted first overall. He was supposed to be the next Crosby. He had a 40-goal, 106-point season in 57 games in juniors, and he got to Edmonton. He was good early on in Edmonton. Never won the championship, though. And then he got traded to New Jersey. Great right away. He won an MVP that second season and then just bounced around from New Jersey all the way around.
That's not a bad one.
Never won a championship, but like Taylor Hall's the one that I could come up with there.
That's not bad.
Kind of resembles it. But again, the narrative's not as big as what Anthony Davis was because that guy he was the face of college basketball that 1 year.
Somebody brings up Carmelo Anthony. A little bit. He never had the playoff success that Anthony Davis did.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing to me that really sets Anthony Davis apart is he got that title, man. And that matters so much to your resume. Somebody said the reverse Sam Darnold, basically.
Yeah.
more or less. He's had a fascinating NBA career. Somebody said in the end, will Anthony Davis be more remembered for his career or being a part of the Luka Doncic trade?
Luka Doncic trade.
I think so because it was so big. And that was a top 5 player in the league.
And I think it signaled kind of what the rest of Davis's career was. He fizzled out.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I think it is going to be remembered by the Luka Doncic trade, especially if Doncic goes on to have continued success with the Lakers.
Yeah.
It's like rags to riches, but riches to rags for Anthony Davis, unfortunately, because you start off at the peak and then it just goes south quick.
Yeah, I thought Kyrie, but Kyrie wasn't big in college. He was good,
he
but
was.
He was
good,
big
but
in college.
He got
didn't
hurt,
play a
but
lot, right?
yeah.
That's more of what I meant.
That's a good one.
Because Kyrie's kind of that way,
Yeah,
right? He
actually,
won a
that's a
title
great
with
comparison.
LeBron, and then he's like, I'm going to go be my own guy. And I was like, whew, you're not that guy.
No,
yeah,
that's
but
perfect.
Kyrie wanted to go be his own guy.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis did not.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
He did not want to get traded.
To join LeBron.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's a
Kyrie
good one.
wanted to separate from him.
That's a really good comparison, though. There's some more off-court stuff with Kyrie. Not like legal issues or anything. Just kind of like in his own
Earth is
head.
flat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really good one. That's a really good
He was
comparison.
a flat earther.
All right, coming up in about 15 minutes, you give us 2 scenarios. We'll tell you which one is more likely here on 101 ESPN. But next, what were the most regrettable decisions that led to where we are today? I don't think Logan Mailloux is going to make this list, Alex. But we'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. What were the most regrettable decisions that led to where we are today with the St. Louis Blues? There's some in the St. Louis market that believe Logan Mailloux is one of those. That if Doug Armstrong could have it back, that would be a move that he would not make over again. Or not do over again. I don't feel that way.
I actually think if you were to ask Doug, like now, would you make that same trade if it was offered to you? He'd say yes.
I think he'd be more likely to make it, is the irony.
Yeah.
Because this team is not good right now. And Bolduc was a move for the here and now, more so than the future, because they've got too many wingers. They can't have all of these guys long term.
And look at those wingers now, what Dvorsky or what Snuggerud has shown and what Stenberg has shown. I mean, both provide a little bit more upside than what Bolduc looked like. Bolduc was a shot first guy that was a power play threat.
I was going to say, he felt like a typical third-line power play specialist.
We always made the Perron comp, but I don't think he had the same nastiness that Perron played with that leveraged him to a top 6 role.
And we saw some of that last year.
We said he could get there.
I like Zach Bolduc.
Totally.
And if the Blues roster construction was different, I would have been in favor of keeping him long term. I think Zach Bolduc is and will be a good player in the NHL. A middle 6 forward, I'm good with it. You gave yourself the opportunity to add a 6'3", 210-pound defenseman who moves the puck well.
Yeah.
He has not been good this year. Just flat out. Logan Mailloux has not had a good season, and I have no idea if he's ever going to be a good NHL player. No clue. Maybe he won't be. But it was a fine trade.
Yeah. Well,
and I think they would do it all over again. That being said, Alex, when you look back on it, there have been some missteps. There's no doubt about that. They've missed on many of the decisions that they've ultimately made. Whether they were good process or not, we can look back on it with hindsight and say this did or did not work now. What would you put up there as the biggest missteps in your mind?
So I think we can all agree, like, the power ranking number 1 is not signing Petro to an extension.
100%.
That was the downfall of where the Blues are at now. Jeff Merrick had said that with us. It's the butterfly effect that you look back and say, if they would have signed him, I think we'd be talking about a different team right now. Right below that, for me, I would say it was trading away TJ Oshie. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I would say trading away TJ Oshie.
To get them here today?
Oh, to get them here. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking more like Doug Armstrong missteps.
Okay, first of all, I find this fascinating. You know I'm going to disagree with it, but go ahead. What's the...
But
you
again,
say we get the best Blues player in return ever, right, in a trade in Troy Brouwer?
But it was what they needed at the time. But
again, this isn't in the context of what got the Blues here. I misheard
let's
you.
detour. I find this fascinating.
I think that's the second biggest misstep that he took, trading away TJ Oshie.
Interesting, because I think most people view it the opposite way.
No. Yeah, they view it because
they reasoning here.
Because they got over the hump against the Chicago Blackhawks, but that has nothing to do with what TJ Oshie went on to become.
Sure.
TJ Oshie at the time was playing the same way he was playing in Washington that he was in St. Louis. They changed it because we need to change the scenery. Brouwer, although I know you love him, he got you over the hump against the Blackhawks. He was gone the next season. TJ Oshie was a perennial top 6, if not top line forward moving forward. So I look at that as that was, if Doug Armstrong was to be asked on Truth Serum, and I can't wait till he retires to where I can ask him this off record, I would almost guarantee you he'd look at it and say, yeah, it got us to where we did. But I still look at that as I probably would have taken that trade back and traded other pieces for Troy Brouwer rather than TJ Oshie. Just my opinion.
I mean, it's fascinating.
But again, I misheard you. That's not what led the Blues to this point. I think if we're in that conversation, unless you want to stay on the sidetrack, the second one under Petro would be re-signing Nick Leddy. Because to me, that was a trickle-down effect where you said, we're going to opt for this defenseman who is not the profile that we need on this team, and we're choosing that over David Perron, where we are still talking about culture for this Blues team. And if you had David Perron on this roster, some might be complaining that he's not producing up to the level of what he's paid, which I think is like $3 or $4 million. Man, I don't care. That's the guy that held every single person accountable if they played poorly.
Before you do that, too, I would say it's just that spot in your lineup has been a consistent mistake.
The third line
Scandella,
winger. The defenseman.
Scandella, Leddy, and Fowler now. Just trading for and then extending prematurely that defenseman that fits into the second pair has been a consistent theme over the last few years, and that also dates back to the Petro decision.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm glad you brought up the extension, because what I was going to say is it was also kind of the theme of this kind of misstep era, I would call it, which was you bring in a guy. When they acquired Letty, it was what they needed at the time, right? It was a puck-moving defenseman that could come in and help them out as a rental. And then they fell in love with it too much and extended him. They did the same thing with Scandella. It was what you needed at the time. Didn't need to do the contract extension. And then the same thing once again now with Cam Fowler, where what did you need at the time? Yeah, you needed this boost in Cam Fowler because you needed a body back there to help them out defensively. And you could have just gone this year to see what it looked like again. And instead, they got on happy serum after what they saw and said, we have to go out there and give them this contract extension. And they're regretting it right now, I believe.
Alex, can I throw one out there? And the text line brought this up as well.
Because I got 2 more that I would put, so I want to see if it's one of them.
What about the Ryan O'Reilly decision?
Yep, that was number 3 for me.
When you look back, and I didn't necessarily hate it at the time. It felt like it was a move that needed to be.
You got Stenberg out of it, so I'd say it's not a bad move.
But when he hit free agency and signed with Nashville, and we talked about it at the time, is this the kind of move that you would consider making? And the answer was no, you probably move on. You give that top center position to Robert Thomas. You give the captaincy to Braden Shen. You're good. Like, you don't need that much veteran leadership just for the sake of veteran leadership. And have you looked at the numbers that Ryan O'Reilly has produced over the last 3 years?
It's been incredible.
70 points and 26 goals in 2023. The year after, 21 points, 53 points. And so far this season, in 55 games, has 20 goals and 53 points. I didn't think he would age this way.
No.
That was my biggest concern was, are we watching the cliff happen right in front of our eyes? Mm-hmm. Where in 2022, he just lost his game. And it was gone, and it wasn't coming back for a 31-year-old that played the way he did. Nope, couldn't have been more wrong. He's been as good over the last 3 years as any second-line center in the NHL. And honestly, you can put him up there with a lot of number 1 centers, and he's 1-for-1 replacement of them.
And real quick, Alex, part of that could lead back to the Perron decision, right? Because you mentioned that year from O'Reilly. That's year when Josh Leva was on his line, and he wasn't playing well.
God,
and guess
those
who
were
was the
fun
guy?
times.
And why was he on that line? Because you chose Letty over Perron.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Ryan O'Reilly is number 3 on that list, and he's just below Nick Letty, but honestly could be tied for second because you not only got rid of a piece that you were developing, but it was also another culture guy that I think would have been very impactful for guys like Dalibor Dvorsky on this team. And let's remember the move that they did by not bringing back Ryan O'Reilly was going to trade a second-round pick for Kevin Hayes. And Hayes made $750,000 less than Ryan O'Reilly. And I could almost guarantee you could have gotten Ryan O'Reilly for $4 million instead of 4.5.
And then, by the way, gave up a second-round pick to get him off the books
to go get your Broberg. Now, let's go to the next one that I would put in this spot.
Not to get Broberg, to get him off of your salary cap sheet, and then you had to trade another future second-round pick.
Right.
So it was still a second-round pick that went with Kevin Hayes.
This year's second-round pick that is going to Pittsburgh because of Kevin Hayes. Yeah. So this is the next one that's right below Ryan O'Reilly, trading away Ivan Barbashev. Because you chased your tail once again. You went with a guy who played the style that the Blues like to play, physical, forecheck, top 6 forward. You, in my opinion, now I don't know what was going on in their heads, but this is what I assume is going on in their heads. You said he's 29 years old. His body can't hold up to play this way. We're not going to pay him what he could make. Let's go get a first-round pick for him. And they traded him for Zach Dean. And I went back and looked at this salary cap-wise. When you opened up that next season, you were $1 million over the salary cap, so you had to adjust a little bit. But you had traded for Kevin Hayes. You also claimed Kasperi Kapanen off of waivers, who was making $3.2 million, and then you traded for Jakub Vrana, who was making $2.75 million. All the while, you could have kept Ivan Barbashev, who's making $5 million, and said, that's a top 6 forward for us. And by the way, he'd have been 33 when he was a free agent versus you betting on Pavel Buchnevich, who will be 36 at $8 million. And if you want another one, I'll give you another one.
Go ahead.
Not re-signing Pat Maroon. Another culture guy. Pat Maroon was on the show with Curbs Joey and I that offseason and said he didn't even get a contract, like an offer from the Blues.
And they were chasing their tail for that exact spot for multiple seasons. Remember Kyle Clifford?
Yeah.
They had, the next year, they said, we don't need this role. And then the following year, Army came out and said, hey, talks to the guys, need that role. Went and got Kyle Clifford, and they were like, not that role.
Dakota Joshua, they tried it with. They went out there and got Tyler Pitlick. They went out there and they kept chasing their tail off of culture guys.
And all along, by the way, they had Nathan Walker, and they were like, waivers, put him in, put him out, put him in, put him out, and finally decided, okay, this is the guy that we want to go with here. But it took forever to get there. We do have a little bit of news to pass along. Jordan Schmaltz tweeting out, sounds like Nick Bukestad on the move for the St. Louis Blues, so there could be some kind of a deal in place with Nick Bukestad. I have not seen anything official on that anywhere else, but did want to pass that along. Jordan Schmaltz is definitely plugged in 2 minutes ago, tweeting out Nick Bukestad, according to him, is expected to be on the move.
On Dad's trip.
I'll just say this. I enjoyed every conversation I ever had with Nick Bukestad.
I was actually, this sounds...
Sucks that hasn't worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping that Bukestad would be actually part of the solution moving forward, to where you just keep that type of veteran and have a third line or a fourth line center. But, I mean, look, centers are valued around the National Hockey League. So if this is true, I mean, it could be a sign of more things to come, because if Bukestad's one of them, then I have to imagine Pius Suter's going to be getting phone calls as well from other teams around the National Hockey League.
He's also... It has not been the year that you expected out of him. From a goal production standpoint, kind of has. 6 goals in 35 games. That's pretty much what you should have expected out of him. That's a 15 to 17 goal pace.
Nick Bukestad has been everything I thought he was going to be. It has not worked in terms of, well, I guess it has worked, but like people will look at it and say, well, that didn't work out. One, you played him on a fourth line spot, which I don't think he was ever slated to be. You wanted him to be a top 9, and he just didn't have the opportunity, and he had injuries. He was out for, 15 games because of that head injury that he took, but I think Nick Bukestad was everything that the Blues needed. It was a third-line center. It's just you had a lot of those centers, and you needed somebody to play the fourth line.
$1.75 million on the cap sheet. I'm guessing this means that they're expecting Otto Stenberg will be a significant part of that third line in the second half of the season.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's probably part of it.
You're opening up roster space. You needed to make two moves when Holloway and Thomas come back. So this was probably one of those moves. And you were also playing the asset game, to where you don't put guys through waivers and lose them for nothing. You go out there and you make trades and see what you can bring. If this is true, which we'll have to wait to see.
We'll see if we get any confirmation on that. We've got about 40 minutes left prior to the Olympic roster freeze in the NHL. Coming up next, more likely to happen here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. We do have confirmation. Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet tweeting out, Nick Bukestad has been traded from St. Louis to New Jersey. In return, the Blues are getting a mid-round pick and a prospect.
So New Jersey has their second-round pick this season, and they have 2 fourth-round picks. They don't have a third. My assumption would be it's the higher of the fourth-round picks between the Jets and the Stars. Those are the 2 that they have. Prospect, I have no idea who they would be trading for.
Good move.
Yeah. I mean, this is a good start of what you're going for. But this plays into what we said. I think they would prefer the name over the pick. So you get a lower-level pick for a higher-level name. I just don't know what the name is going to be.
Nick Bukestad got a $1.7 million contract. He wasn't exactly like the most sought after commodity. And I say this as somebody that likes Nick Bukestad. He's 33 years old. He has 7 points and is a -7 on the season. To be able to get a prospect and a mid-round pick for him is a pretty good move by Doug Armstrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, look, I was just telling T-Bone this. I think if you were to ask the Blues, like, who would you prefer between Bukestad and Suter? I think they'd say we'd prefer to have Suter moving forward because he's more of a versatile player who can play center or wing. And Bukestad was a centerman more than he was a guy who could play center and wing. And if I look at the New Jersey Devils, Jack Hughes has been hurt a lot this season for them. They need strength down the middle. So you go out there and you can bring in a guy like Nick Bukestad.
And just to add just a little bit more here, it sounds like Pierre LeBrun is saying it's a guy that's in the AHL. That is the prospect that's coming.
Yeah. So
now, I don't know what that
NHL
means, but
player.
at least he's a AHL player and he's not like in the ECHL or playing college hockey somewhere.
Let's see who I think that's the Binghamton Devils. That the roster is. Let's see who they have on their roster.
All right.
I'll take their points leader.
While you're doing that,
Of course we will.
I'll go ahead and get to my more likely to happen here. You guys give us 2 scenarios. We'll tell you which one is more likely. More likely to happen. The Blues make another deal prior to the
Dang it! Come on, man.
This is the one player that's traded on Dad's trip.
This is the one trade. I don't see another trade with this one. I'm a little surprised this is the one that they did, but I also just really wonder that they looked at it and said, look, we're going to have to make a roster move once we come out of the Olympics. A team wants them right now, so let's just make the move. So I'll say this is it.
I'll say this is it as well. Shayna Goldman, who works for The Athletic, tweeted the Devils needed a bottom 6 center. So it sounds like this was one of those where it just matched up perfectly right before this deadline. I think this will be it. I would be shocked if he makes another move.
The Utica Comets are the team that the New Jersey Devils have.
We're probably going to get information on this in like 3 minutes.
I want to find out before them.
Okay. Alex, what is your more likely to happen in the meantime?
It was what yours was, so I'll just go with this. Guys, more likely to happen, Panarin doesn't go to the Capitals and the Blues trade Kyrou to the Capitals. Wait, hold on.
For more likely to happen, I need
2 scenarios.
2 scenarios.
Look, I was trying to figure out who they're going to get in a trade. All right, calm down.
You're going to make the king unhappy over there.
Oh, God, I'm going to get sent to the dungeons again. More likely to happen, Kyrou is traded to the Capitals. Kyrou starts the season with the Blues next year. Ha! Nailed it. The king concurs.
Traded to the Capitals. I don't think Kyrou's back next year.
Yeah, I think I'm with you.
King fancies this scenario.
I think I would go Kyrou ends up being traded to the Capitals. I don't like that it's just one team, but I'm kind of with BK. I don't think I see a scenario where he's going to end up being back.
Okay, before the report comes out, can I tinfoil what I think they're going to get in return? Defenseman Seamus Casey. That's my tinfoil.
Is he good?
It feels like a big return for this.
Second-round pick back in 2022, right-shot defenseman who's 22 years old. They've got a ton of defensemen. This would be a pretty significant return. I'm like going on the upside of this, but the Blues just placed a right-handed defenseman in their minor league system on the conditions, through waivers on the conditions of buyout. He's going back to Sweden. So that's my prediction before it comes out. Yeah, I say it's more likely he's traded to the Capitals, too.
That'd be a big-time
be a huge return.
My guess is they get somebody that we probably don't see being a part of the future for the Blues.
I agree. That 4th-round pick, though, you never know.
We'll see.
Guys, more likely to be traded before March 6th, which is the NHL trade deadline. Jojo Romero or Pius Suter?
I would have said Pius Suter immediately, but now that they moved Bukestad, I really wonder if they're like, no, we're going to keep Suter because you're probably going to move Shen. probably going to move Falk, and you're more than likely going to move Kyrou either now or before next season. So I'll say it's JoJo. I think they keep Pius Suter because he's a middle six winger for you.
You said JoJo prior to the start of the season?
Prior to March 6th, I'd put it right at the trade deadline of the NHL.
I'll say Suter. I think JoJo, now that we're a week away from the start of spring training, I think JoJo's going to be a part of the roster until the deadline. I think that is when you get the most for relievers. I said this last year with Ryan Helsley as well. You don't see relievers getting that same demand in the offseason, especially middle inning relievers, as you do potentially at the deadline. So I'll go with Pius Suter.
I'm with you, and the reason that I feel more confident saying that one is, one, kind of what you just said about JoJo. They're just not valued to get to the trade deadline, especially rentals. And two, you don't even need Suter as that depth center for you because they can go now, especially since Booch apparently is a center. They can go with, when Thomas comes back, if he's still here, Thomas on the top line. You can then go Dvorsky on the second, and Booch is the third line center, and that's assuming you trade Braden Chen. So I think they've actually got the depth of the middle that they will need post-deadline to where they could move Suter and they could get a decent return for him.
All right, let's get some of these from the text line from Merp the Barbarian. Guys, more likely to happen. A quarterback is the Super Bowl MVP, or Seattle's defense scores more points than the offense. Quarterback is the MVP.
Quarterback's the MVP.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Seattle, like, if best case scenario, score 7 points. I don't think that's not going to happen. I think they could do that, but the team's going to score more than that.
More likely to make an all-star game, Carbonneau or Doyle? I'd say Doyle. There's just more spots available.
Yeah, I agree.
More likely to make the playoffs first, the Cardinals or the Blues? I'll go Cardinals.
I'll say Blues.
I would say Cardinals as well. I think they are, in theory, on the upward trajectory. Blues feel like they're starting back at the bottom again with the moves that they're going to have to consider deadline and in the offseason.
More likely to make it back to the NHL Stanley Cup Finals this year, Edmonton or Florida?
Edmonton. I don't think Florida makes it.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're making the playoffs.
They got a lot of teams to try and jump over, and
I think they're 8 out, 6 out, something like that.
Something like that. And Barkov's skating, but it's probably going to be past the trade deadline when he returns. So I'm going to say Edmonton.
Yeah, I would say Edmonton as well. And McDavid just goes off in the playoffs.
I don't know if you guys read that article that he wrote for the Players Tribune. It was an incredible piece. Like, McDavid will be a monster in the playoffs. It's just a matter of, can your team play well around you too?
Give me Florida.
Cool, man.
I'll trust it. I trust the infrastructure.
I trust it too when they're golfing.
I'll go with Florida gets back once again this
It's
year.
different, but I feel as if it's like what we did with the Eagles, where
Or
we're
the
giving them
Chiefs.
too much credit, or the Chiefs. We're like, oh, they've got playoff experience. Of course they'll get back there. And I look and go, when you watch them, I don't get those playoff experience vibes.
If there weren't teams like Buffalo and Detroit playing as well as they're playing, I'd agree with you that Florida can sneak in. Dude, there's so many teams in the East right now that are just playing better than what Florida is playing, and it's tough to jump over 5 or 6 teams to get into the playoffs.
News in the NFL as the Arizona Cardinals are hiring Nathaniel Hackett as their offensive coordinator.
Luckily, I don't believe he's calling plays, right? Because I think LaFleur is going
in
to.
charge.
Good thing we're going to hire an offensive coordinator who's not calling plays.
Yeah, this one's going to fail spectacularly.
What's the point of hiring an offensive coordinator if he's not making plays?
I mean, you got to have somebody
Give you some
in the role.
ideas. Yeah, I mean,
He's
that's
an
what
assistant
LaFleur
coach.
did in L.A.
Yeah.
McVay was the one that called the offense. He was just kind of there to give him some ideas or help him kind of, hey, John, let's run the football this time.
A lot of the time, they're a quarterback coach who gets the title because you can't interview anybody that's currently a quarterback's coach for a quarterback job unless their team gives you permission. Their team's not going to give you permission if they're good at their job. So you would have to give them a title bump, which comes with a salary bump for that upward mobility. So that's generally speaking why you do this. Now, Nathaniel Hackett was not exactly a
Sought after.
Yeah.
Same with the Jets OC hire today, Frank Reich.
from Stanford.
Yeah, interim that knew he wasn't going to be brought back because Luck knew it would be a mistake.
Coming up next, Ivan Herrera was listed among the top 10 catchers in Major League Baseball. Just how far up could he rise up this list after the season? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Alex, it's going to be a lot of fun watching the big game while I'm checking out all of my picks over on the Underdog app. You know how this is. You go over there to the app, download it today if you haven't done so yet. Alex tell you about the promo code that you can use for that, and you can make your picks and win money while you're watching the big game. For me, I like lower on Drake May passing yards. I had a promo over on the Underdog app. These are available for you all the time. I had Kenneth Walker. Instead of it being 75 rushing yards, 63 rushing yards. I'm going higher on that. And I think Jackson Smith and Jigba will lead the game in receiving yards. You put all that together, $5 entry wins me $17.
It's so easy to use over on the Underdog app. BK just told you, you pick your favorite players. They're going to go higher or lower on stats. You get your entries right, you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. Plus, make sure you're checking out that app daily for all the promos that they drop for the weekend's big games. So download the Underdog app today, get promo code BKO, and score $75 in fantasy bonus entries when you play your first $5 on fantasy. Again, use promo code BKO. Underdog, make plays, win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/playing. Get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The St. Louis Blues have made a trade. According to our Blues insider, Jeremy Rutherford, the Blues are trading center Nick Bukestad to the New Jersey Devils for a mid-round draft pick and a AHL player. Once we get the full return, we'll be sure to bring it to you here on 101 ESPN. Blues back in action tonight for the final time before the Olympic break as they will visit the Dallas Stars. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 7:30 with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 8:30 with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. This Sports Update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Nick Bukestad traded to the Devils. We'll let you know if we have anything more on that whenever we get it here on BK and Ferrari.
Shouldn't be taking this long to get some returns. NHL's probably trying to get the Panarin one passed through, so they'll get the returns out in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do. We'll get that to you as quickly as we possibly can. However, Alex, there was some news yesterday. There was a list that was put out yesterday by
That's
MLB
news this
Network.
season.
Top 10 catchers in the game right now. At number 10, I like this guy, Shane Langoliers. At number 9, Ivan Herrera, Cardinals catcher, who kind of played the position a year ago.
So a Cardinals catcher gets top 10, but a shortstop doesn't.
That's right.
And you're going to try and sell me on the shortstop's the superstar.
Yep. Okay. Number 8, Sean Murphy. Number 7, Yainer Diaz. Number 6, Gabby Moreno. Number 5, Alejandro Kirk. Number 4, Drake Baldwin. At number 3, Will Smith. 2, William Contreras. And number 1, Cal Raleigh. The fact that you already have a player in the top 10 in Ivan Herrera who barely played the position a year ago speaks to how great his bat is. And that's his carry tool that can keep him in the majors and keep him in the lineup on an everyday basis. If he's merely average this season, Alex, as a defensive player behind the plate, how high up do you think you could get on a list like this? Like, could he be in that Drake Baldwin, Alejandro Kirk 4-5 range?
I was just going to say, because it's going to sound like how little I know about most baseball players, I didn't know who Drake Baldwin was. And so
he's the guy that took over the job.
Yeah, which I just looked at it and I'm like, holy bleep, I didn't realize he played for that team. So that tells you how good he was to take that job. Yeah, I think somewhere in the Drake Baldwin, Gabby Moreno category is what you're talking about if we can be average behind the plate. Because this wasn't a list about him playing the catcher position. This was a list of him being a really good bat that's learning the position behind the plate.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he probably slides top 5 would be my guess, because most of those names that you're talking about there are more defense first. If you become a average defender behind home plate and the bat continues to do what it has done, I mean, BK read off the numbers in the baseball season. I can't remember exactly what it was, but you just looked at primary catchers. Man, there's only like 4 or 5 that actually hit at this level, right? Most of them are more the defensive specialist, game calling. They're good at catching runners like JT Realmuto was. If he can hit while also just becoming average defensively, yeah, he will shoot up this list and probably potentially be a top 5 catcher in baseball.
All right, Alex, I've got the return for you.
Yep, just saw it.
Thomas Bordello is your
I was
center.
off on my return.
5'10", 175 pounds, former second-round pick in 2020, has had a cup of coffee at the NHL level this season in 35 games at the AHL level, has 8 points, 2 goals for the Utica Comets.
Yeah.
So that is your return, along with a 4th-round selection for Nick Bukestad.
Yeah, it's conditional 4th, so I'll be curious to see what that condition is, if it moves up to be something else, depending on what the Devils do. But, I mean, you got something. That's about it. I mean, it's a former second-round pick, so it's kind of a see what you can get for him. He's young, but, yeah, this was just a matter of, I think this was the pick and also the roster position that you were opening up by trading Bukestad away.
He's had some success in the past. I mean, at the NHL level, 2023 had 6 goals, 11 points in 27 games, was a terrible plus-minus, but had a little bit of success on the offensive side. Somebody had to score for that San Jose Sharks team. And in his time at the AHL level for San Jose, it's pretty good for them. Put up some real points. This season, that has not been the case, but, you know, there's a little something there.
You get
dream on it.
You get something for Bukestad.
And you said center, right? He's a center.
Yeah. Small center.
Is he maybe just an insurance piece for if you were to trade Pius Suter at the deadline? And I mentioned what I said, like if you trade Suter and Chen, Thomas comes back, you know what your 4 centers are going to be, but if someone were to go down, at least now you have a pivot if something were to happen injury-wise.
I'd have to look if he's played any center.
I was going to say, I'm
NHL
checking
level.
now. I think he's playing wing primarily in the minor leagues for Utica.
He played that year that you mentioned with San Jose. He was the center. He was a center for them.
Sure.
I don't know if it's. I think they've already got plenty of insurance if they decide to move on from Pius Suter in the minors. I think they've got Zach Dean now, who's back. They could put him there. They traded Alexandrov for a guy who's played in the NHL, Akil Thomas. I think this was just a matter of just go get whatever you can in return. And I think I saw it was either Friedman or LeBrun tweeted out or mentioned it that this was also to make it like cap compliant in terms of the contract. So you had to ship out a professional hockey league contract if you're bringing another professional hockey league contract in. So you signed him pretty cheap. He wasn't a desired player. That sounds negative. He wasn't a sought-after player in free agency. You got a draft pick, and you got a minor league player back in return, which is probably what you were going to get for Bukestad.
Bortolo during the offseason was traded to the Devils in exchange for Shane Bowers. So that was the previous trade that he was involved in.
And the condition on that is what I mentioned earlier. It's the later portion of the draft pick. So you get, if I'm understanding this correct, you're getting the lower pick in the 4th round of Winnipeg and Dallas.
Oh, okay.
So
it's a 4th-round pick.
Yeah. So you're getting a 4th round pick. It's just the lesser of Winnipeg or Dallas.
It's just another dart to throw at the
in other
dartboard.
words, you're getting Dallas's 4th-round pick.
Yeah.
Probably yes.
I mean, there is almost no scenario in which Winnipeg picks behind Dallas.
Are you kidding me? There is totally a scenario.
I'm genuinely, like, you could have just said, I would have been fine with
There
them
is
saying,
a scenario.
we will give you Dallas as our
There
4th-round pick.
was a scenario that it absolutely could be better.
I'm actually not positive there is.
No, there's
Why did they have to put this condition on
I'm
it?
not sure. That's an amazing
I guess because
condition.
if anything can happen, I guess.
They are currently 23 points behind the Dallas Stars with about 27 games left. So is it technically possible?
Yes, absolutely. If they go 0-27, if their team just cannot physically take the ice for the rest of the season, then it's a chance we could see that draft pick go to the Blues.
got the Stars 4th-round pick,
No, it's
and
maybe.
a forward they're probably never going to see at the NHL level. So that's the
And they might even not even select that pick too in this draft. That could just be in a trade for something else later.
Coming up next, we're going to give you 2 pairs of tickets to see.
TMA forgot to give theirs away.
Yeah. The Sunset Hills Subaru Blues Alumni Experience. That's at the Mardi Gras event next Saturday in Soulard. We'll give you 2 different pairs of passes for that. And we'll have the rewind coming up next here on 101 ESPN. It is time for you to unlock your inner champion. The place to do so is with Victory Men's Health. Alex, I went in there recently and had them check out my micronutrient levels. Actually, just heard back from Kim over at Victory Men's Health yesterday. Set up my next appointment to go in there, find out where my results are at, and they can personalize a plan for me to unlock my inner champion. They can do the exact same thing for you, but it might not be your micronutrient levels. Maybe it is erectile dysfunction that you're dealing with. Could be some weight loss goals that you're trying to meet. Maybe it's low testosterone symptoms that you're feeling. You don't have the same energy. You feel like you're getting some mood swings. Could happen as early as your 20s, 30s. Find out where your levels are at. They can check those for you over at Victory Men's Health. Then they can personalize a plan that will unlock your inner champion. It's all available for you today. Check out their 4 great locations across the St. Louis area, and then book your first appointment online at victorymenshealth.com. It's Victory Men's Health, 4 great locations, St. Louis area for you. Book that first appointment today online at victorymenshealth.com. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, 101 ESPN this week has your shot to score a pair of tickets to the Sunset Hills Subaru Blues Alumni Experience. That's at Mardi Gras next Saturday, February the 14th out in Soulard. We have 2 pairs to give away right now here on BK and Ferrario. Blues Alumni Experience puts you in a heated tent. Couldn't ask for anything more. You've got the meet and greets with the St. Louis Blues legend. Contest winner must be 21 or older. But other than that, you can check out all the details at 101ESPN.com and a bonus chance to win on the 101 ESPN app. Right now, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. If you have the correct answer to the following question, you'll be selected at random. We'll have 2 different pairs of tickets to the Sunset Hills Subaru Blues Alumni Experience to give away right now. Alex, earlier today, you compared me to something and then put something on my head. What did you put on my head earlier today during a segment? If you were on the YouTube chat, you certainly saw it. We made reference to it as well on the show. We will pick 2 of the correct answers at random to give away those pairs of tickets to the Blues Alumni Experience at Mardi Gras next Saturday. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com. The free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
Alex, they can also check out over on YouTube, I think momentarily, youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. There's expected to be a brand new edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast. Not up yet, but should be up shortly over on the YouTube page later on this afternoon. They talked about if there will be any sort of movement for the Blues. There has since been some movement for the Blues.
All Bukestad trade.
It's a 50% chance.
They traded Nick Bukestad to the New Jersey Devils.
Full disclosure with everybody, does this move deserve a new podcast tomorrow?
No.
Okay, cool.
We're not even sure what 4th round
Alex,
pick they got.
we have 3 minutes left until the official roster freeze. Do you think that was it? Was that the one move that gets made?
I think that was it.
Are we going to see a Panarin move?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're going to see a Panarin move. You're going to see the announcement come a little bit after 2 o'clock.
Okay.
My guess, Tampa.
I'll agree with that. I think you see Panarin move. I don't think the Blues are doing anything else. No. I think this was the one. I think it worked out. The Devils need some center depth, especially for their last game before the break.
The Blues have made one. I think that's going to be it. I think that's the one move that we see.
Remember when the NHL was like, this will be a mini trade deadline in the season?
And their big hurrah so far is Bukestad
with a 4th round pick that nobody knows what it is.
Yeah, it's a 4th round pick. Yeah, it's all right.
It's a dart to throw at the dartboard.
Amen to that.
Well, you can check that out or check out Alex's Last Minute Blues podcast over on the YouTube page, youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. Blues back in action tonight. Alex will have pregame coverage starting at 7:30. Puck drop for that one. Your only local coverage with the puck drop at 8:50 right here on 101 ESPN. 101 ESPN app sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. It's 1:58. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. It's Alex's final day on the show of the week. We'll give you all of our Super Bowl predictions tomorrow accordingly.
Seahawks.
We'll talk to you then. The Fast Lane's next here on 101 ESPN.
Call them a peasant, BK. You're a peasant, sir. You don't speak to me with that tone.
No bread for you.
I am the one in charge. I have done the research. I reject harumph.